This is the Morning Tailgate.
There have been plenty of other coaches, but why not us? Why not this staff? Why not this group of players? I look at it as what a great challenge. We're going to be about the work.
He is back, baby! And the Raiders regain the lead! With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Grab a beverage or two and settle in. This is the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the Silver and Black. Vince Sapienza, Clay Baker, coming to you live from Las Vegas here on a Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, where today is the day. This has been a day circled on the calendar for not just weeks, months. The joint practice between the Houston Texans and your Las Vegas Raiders in Texas. Just a couple days ahead of their preseason opener, preseason road opener, I guess. Lone road game of the preseason schedule. And it's fascinating when you sit there and you talk to players, coaches, almost holding this joint practice day in higher regard than the actual game. Now, reps are reps, and they'll take the reps as they come in that exhibition contest on Thursday night. But in the joint practice, you get ones-on-ones in a manner that you don't get to see during the preseason. You get to actually see a little bit of scheming, a little bit of game planning, trying to one-up best the other. And so that's what makes today so tantalizing, not just for fans, but coaches and players alike. And you can't help but talk about the excitement and how much is there for the Raiders after what we saw Thursday at Allegiant Stadium against the Arizona Cardinals. Not only did Kirk Cousins look crisp and very good running the offense at a high efficient level, but you saw Fernando Mendoza look pretty damn good as well. Getting better as the game went on. What does that mean in his rep count? How does that look against the Houston Texans today as well as Thursday? As I said, Clay and I here in Vegas, which means Vinny Bonsignor is live in Houston, getting set for the start of the joint practice. Vinny, set the scene. Good morning. What do you got?
Yeah, a beautiful morning here in Houston, Texas. The humidity is not as bad as I think it's going to get. As somebody here told me, don't worry, it's coming. So we're all bracing for that. But otherwise, it's a beautiful morning in Houston. The Raiders are on the field, going through their segment of the practice. So they're doing their walkthrough right now. And getting prepared for when the Texans join them. The Texans are right adjacent to them in their indoor facility, but they'll be coming out onto the field here any moment now, and we're going to get this thing started. As we talked about yesterday, it's a stress test for the Raiders. It's a litmus test. It's a measuring stick. You're going to find out how tough you are. You're going to have a better idea of where things stand, especially on that offensive line and that quarterback and everywhere else. So I think everybody's bracing for a really exciting day. And I do think you're going to see a lot of Fernando Mendoza, I would imagine, with the first team, whether it's today and getting a lot of reps, obviously, on Thursday as well when they square it up right next door to us at Energy Field for the preseason game.
Vinny, do we see JPJ out there?
I'm not quite sure, but we'll just leave that at that right there right now. So I haven't really been able to see exactly who's on the field just yet.
So how important is it for pass protection against the Houston Texans? We know how strong they are, especially when you got two guys like Will Anderson and Hunter who are double-digit sack masters.
Yeah, well, this is a situation that the Raiders simply can't replicate in practice. Yeah, you've got Max Crosby, and that's a standard bearer and, one of the best pass rushers in the game, and he brings it on a daily basis. But this is a deeper, defensive line than the Raiders' offensive line goes against on a daily basis. So you're going to get stressed out. You're going to get looks that you don't normally see. You're going to get caliber of players that you don't see on a daily basis. But it's not just that defensive line; it's every level of his defense. And they're gonna apply a lot of pressure, change the picture for whoever the quarterback is, whoever the offensive line is, and that's what makes this such a great litmus test and measuring stick for the Raiders. It's why they're here in the first place. They understood the defense that they were going to see today, and then obviously on Thursday to some extent. But they sought this out. They wanted this at this stage of training camp because they wanted to get a better idea of where things stand for them. And look, better to find out if there's any cracks, in the foundation right now rather than in September. And, you can maybe fix things or identify things that need to be worked on. You're also going to find out in some cases that you're a little bit further ahead of the game. That's what you hope anyway, that there are certain things that maybe you were a little bit worried about that you're like, okay, we feel a whole lot better about it after going against this defense.
So Vinny Bonsignor live in Houston at the joint practice between the Raiders and the Texans. So, okay, who has the most to gain in your estimation on a day like today after what we saw in the preseason opener against the Arizona Cardinals? Obviously, we're going to just put the quarterback conversation aside for a second because we know who has the most to gain in that respect. But I'm curious, elsewhere, who do you think has the most to gain from a good performance today?
Yeah, I want to see the wide receivers get separation, especially some of those younger wide receivers. So, a guy like Jack Besh building off the momentum that he built, a Caleb Rogers, the offensive line, obviously. We'll always talk about that. I think Ashton Genty being able to break some runs and find some running room against this defense, that will be big. But on the flip side of things, look, I had Aaron Wilson on my show yesterday. He covers the Texans as good as anybody, and C.J. Stroud has looked much better in training camp compared to how he ended the season. I know C.J. got a lot of grief last year for how it ended, but there were a lot of extenuating circumstances that he was dealing with. A bad offensive line, the weapons around him were injured. There wasn't much of a running game, so he took all the blame, and we saw kind of all that. But it might have been a little bit misplaced. He looks like a different player now with his full complement of players. So they're going to be able to challenge the Raiders' defense as well. So I want to see guys like, Key Crawford, Kwity Paye, continued progress from Tonka Hemingway if he's out here. The linebackers, the young secondary in particular as well. They have a chance today to get some quality work in, to get some good players and show what, maybe that there were some lessons learned from the Thursday game against the Cardinals in ways that they struggled, and maybe today they could put a better foot forward for themselves.
What do you think the lessons are learned, though, for that secondary, knowing that they were sticky in practice prior to that preseason week one, but this time they're going up against guys like Nico Collins and, Dalton Schultz for the Houston Texans. These are prime weapons that they're going to get tested on.
Yeah, I think the key is staying with your fundamentals and staying with your technique. Guys were in position to make plays against the Arizona Cardinals, but they got a little bit out of whack, whether it was rust, whatever the case might be. When the opportunity was there to make the play, they didn't make the play. But I was encouraged because, to me, it felt like they were where they needed to be. Jamon McCoy was in position. It wasn't like he was, out of position and where am I supposed to be? He was right where he needed to be. It was just making that final last play, to either knock the ball away or come up with an interception or just make it a not a good play for the Cardinals. But in a couple of situations, the Cardinals got the best of them. So just being able to carry it through the entire way. Not just be there, but also be able to make the play. So I think that would be progress for him. I thought from a assignment standpoint, they all look pretty good in that regard. It was just closing it out now.
Klint Kubiak has talked about how more reps are needed for one Fernando Mendoza. It is Kirk's job to lose at the quarterback position as we continue to, figure it out. As we discussed yesterday on the show, a complicated yet simple question that everybody is asking regarding the Raiders starting quarterback for week one of the NFL season. Feels like, again, we talk about pieces of the pie, all looking for information. Preseason game number one, pretty big piece of the pie. Feels like today is another equally large piece to that pie, to this puzzle, as Klint Kubiak and his staff figure out how the reps are going to go not only today, into Thursday, the final preseason game, and then when a decision is made.
Yeah, my instincts tell me that I would be majorly surprised if we don't see Fernando getting a lot of first-team reps today. But I think there's two different train tracks going on right now. I think from the Raiders' perspective with Kirk Cousins and the starting offensive line, it's getting prepared for a season, getting prepared for the season opener, right? And obviously this is a litmus test for them in that regard, but it's more about going up against a really rugged defense and getting prepared for the season. I think in Fernando's case, in the times that he's out there, whether it's with the first team or the second team, it's where are you? Getting a better idea of where he is in his development, journey. So that makes it for a really interesting day. On one hand, you're getting prepared for the season, and on the other hand, you're preparing Fernando Mendoza, as he continues to develop, but getting a better idea today of how much progress he made. Where is he on that journey? So a very interesting day for the Raiders offense on all levels, but in particular, getting Kirk more accustomed to, his surroundings with the Raiders and playing a chess game today against a really good defense and a great defensive coordinator. And in Fernando's case, getting a real better handle on where things stand with him.
For the offense with the ones, it would make me feel like if this were a real game going up against Houston, that in order to kind of like negate the pass rush, it would be getting a good run game going. How important will that be to kind of foster what Kirk Cousins is going to do with the ones, to see if this run game can go and kind of thwart whatever pass rush and kind of heat that the Houston Texans will be bringing?
Yeah, without question, because the Raiders aren't going anywhere if they can't run the ball, flat out. So they have to be able to, make hay when they run the ball, because it's going to be a big focal point of their offense and an extremely important component to be able to play off of it to build a successful or a more successful pass game. So being able to run against a team like the Houston Texans, if they can show that today, that would be huge, because it makes everything so much easier. Once you are able to show that you can run the ball, it changes everything for a defense and how they're going to defend you. And then you can take advantage of the changes that occur, because the defense now has to focus more on stopping the run. But the first thing you have to do is show them, the defense, that you are able to run the ball. And if you could do that against this team, you're going to probably have some pretty good success against a whole lot of other teams in the NFL.
So, according to multiple people down there on the field with you, no Jackson Powers-Johnson being seen in the early warm-ups for the Raiders, which again goes to what we discussed yesterday, if that is indeed the case, which looks like it turns out to be. What a massive opportunity for Caleb Rogers. Is this, again, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and I know the evaluation isn't on just one day, Vinny, but it also feels like it's a sink or swim type day for Caleb Rogers.
Yeah, I don't know about sink. I don't expect him to sink. I think that it's more likely that he's going to respond to this challenge. There's nothing about Caleb that we've seen that makes you worried, right? I mean, at least from my perspective. I want to just see how much better he is compared to where he was last year, and maybe even compared to last week or on Thursday. I don't expect him, to just be a situation where if Jackson is out for any extended period of time, the Raiders are going to be like, after today, oh my gosh, there's no way we can survive. We've got to rethink this whole thing. He was pushing for that starting job for a reason, because he's playing well and he's showing them that he deserves an opportunity to get a real look at being the starter. So I don't expect it to look ugly in any way, and for him to drown here. I just want to see how much he can hold his own against this really formidable defense. I
mean, can you think of a player from a second-year player that the Raiders have that has been waiting and embarking on this opportunity more than Caleb Rogers? I mean, this is somebody that has been working towards this and having a great offseason to go and show everybody why he was taken where he was.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny when you say that, because when you do put it that way, I'm thinking Ashton Genty, a second-year player, saying, I'm not happy with what happened last year. I need to take a bigger step forward, and I got to show people who I really am. Jackson Powers, Caleb Rogers, without question. But how about Jack Besh, continuing to show that? So there's a lot of second-year Tonka Hemingway. There's a lot of second-year players right now who, for whatever reason, maybe it didn't turn over the way everyone had hoped last year. There were a lot of circumstances that kind of dictated that. But there's a lot of that draft class from last year going into their second year who are looking at today and this year as a real big opportunity, and not on some hopeful, whimsical way. They believe in themselves. I think the Raiders believe in them as well. And now with a better infrastructure for all of them, they have a chance to make a lot of progress this year, and in particular this week.
All right, Vinny, what's the demeanor of the Raiders? We've watched some warm up before. We've seen their attitudes, how they go about their business before practice starts. What's the demeanor? Because Isaiah Polamau yesterday, Adam Butler a couple days ago, said, you know what joint practices are. You're here to get in work? Absolutely. But you also understand that guys' jobs are on the line. Livelihoods, dreams, careers are at stake in moments and days like these where you are going up against another man trying to literally take your lunch, right? And so while nobody's looking for a fight, everybody's ready for one. So what's the demeanor?
Yeah, no, I think the demeanor is exactly what it's been throughout training camp. It's business-like. There's no hooting and hollering or any of that. There's a lot of attention to detail right now. They're going through their individual groups right now, just as the Texans are, and they're getting prepared for a battle. They know what the Texans bring to the table, and to me, it looks like they're heeding that and understanding that and getting ready for exactly that. But as we were talking about yesterday, with Fernando and his demeanor in terms of, not making anything bigger than what it is, we can sit here and wax poetic on all this. Make no mistake, everyone here understands what is at stake, but you can't overthink it as well. It's still just football, and it's really just go do what you know that you're capable of doing, what your coaches have coached you up to do, and go out there and be who you are, be that best version of yourself. And if that happens, I think there's a lot of talent on this football team. You can see it. It may not, it may not be fully developed or blossomed, but you can see that there's talent on this football team, and it's just a matter of sticking with it, chipping away, stacking good days together, including today, and letting that get you to where you ultimately want to get. This is one step along that way, but you could tell that they're bracing for something pretty special today.
Well, joint practices are very special, and in fact, they kind of give you a great measuring stick of where you want to be and where you want to go. But you've seen in previous, and not only in this offseason, you have seen how joint practices can go sour and they can get physical and violence can occur, having fights bust out. This seems though like that won't happen, only because Kubiak's nature is one in which he knows that a lot of work can get done right here, and this is serious business, not in which it's going to allow for emotions to boil over. Yeah,
but saying that, sometimes you're also your dance partner is also going to dictate. If the dance partner is stepping on your toes and stuff like that, you're going to get pissed off, right? So, or if your dance partner is not going according to script, then you're going to have to adjust a little bit. So you can come into this with all the best intentions of keeping it clean, of toeing the line and staying within the line. But at the same time, I guarantee you this. Klint Kubiak has let everybody on this football team know, hey, at some point you got to protect your teammate. So if something goes down, we want to be responsible, and we don't want to be the team that makes the other team have to respond to our irresponsibility. But if they're being irresponsible, then let's make sure we've got each other's back and be protective of each other.
It is Vinny Bonsignore live in Houston for the joint practice between the Raiders and the Texans. 702-365-9200. We're going to open up the phone lines throughout today's show. A very unique type of show, as the practice will be going on during our broadcast. So this is a direct line to joint practice in Houston. What are you seeing? What are you missing? Who looks good? Who doesn't? What questions do you want answered? And that's the question we're asking you. 702-365-9200. What questions do you want answered on a day like today where it is best on best, Raiders-Texans, joint practice, a little bit of scheming, a little bit of showing your hand compared to what we see in the preseason, or should I say don't see in the preseason? 702-365-9200. Vinny's going to be bouncing in and out all throughout the morning. Q Myers will be joining us as well. He is doing his show, Unnecessary Roughness, from Houston later this afternoon. We'll check in with him, get his perspective. Jesse Merrick of the Silver and Black Sports Network joining us in hour number 2. But until then, it is all you and us and Vinny. Houston, Vegas, parts unknown, Clay. 702-365-9200. But first...
Hey, guys, just a reminder, salsmexicanrestaurant.com. If you're in the Central Valley, Selma, Fresno, or Madera, or if you're not, just go to salsmexicanrestaurant.com. That great food can get delivered wherever you are. Just go to salsmexicanrestaurant.com.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the morning tailgate.
Pass on the inside slot. Fernando looking left across the middle. Caught. Touchdown. Jack Besh. Fernando Mendoza. A rifle to Jack Besh. And the Raiders score 6. Touchdown. Las Vegas Raiders.
He stepped up, had an excellent game. He really has had an impressive camp as far as just being a guy that's continually straining and getting better. And hasn't had all the ops in practice. And then he came out tonight and was ready to roll. So I was happy, but not surprised with what he did tonight.
Klint Kubiak talking about wide receiver Jack Besh. JT the Brick on the call here on Raider Nation Radio 920. And we got a little blondie. A little blondie action here on a Tuesday.
Yeah, call me. You want answers. You have questions.
Is that you subliminally messaging the nation to call us to talk about joint practice? Is that what you just did? Did you just I just lost it. It was in my head, now it's gone.
Because that's your subconscious.
Did you just Leo DiCaprio movie?
Subliminally.
The sleeping one? Did you just
I did that. I went there.
What is it called?
That was very suggestive of me. But we wanted to hear you.
Inception. Just Inception me.
Vince is doing this hand motion with he's like, I don't know.
Like going underneath.
Oh, okay.
Like incepting.
I thought you were spearfishing or something.
Sometimes.
Okay, good.
I do have a good technique on spearfishing. The Raiders trying to do a little fishing of their own down in Texas as they're trying to fish for information as who is going to be part of the solution. The answers here in the regular season, and you come back with the Jack Besh, and we talk about most to gain out of a joint practice like this. I think when you look back at that first preseason game, Clay, nobody helped their stock more than a Jack Besh. I think if you had to rank him, he is number one on the list for not just what he did with Kirk Cousins, but what he did with Fernando Mendoza. Because we've seen Jack Besh typically with the ones and Kirk Cousins. Not a lot of passes thrown his way during training camp, but gets one on a third down, moves the sticks, and then he's still on the field when Fernando Mendoza comes on, and he looks like him and Fernando have been throwing and catching for years based on those first couple drives. So obviously Jack Besh is finding his way to the point where Kirk Cousins says, I trust the guy, and Klint Kubiak is saying we need to get him more action in the passing game. So you love hearing that. Everything is pointing up and to the right for number 18, Jack Besh, which I think is, I don't want to say a sigh of relief for Raider Nation just yet because we need to see it in the regular season. But we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, this guy is going to be a piece. This guy's going to be part of what was trying to be built here for the last couple of years.
What if you're Jack Besh and you're taken second, in the second round, and you're a guy that feels like I can separate myself from this current wide receiver room that I see right now in my second year? What do I got to do to get there? And his offseason was one in which you could see he added some muscle. but and also, like, can he go and coexist and thrive in the Kubiak offense? And I think he can. Not only he's known as a good route runner, but he's somebody that can also stay on the field and constantly block. I don't think you can get anywhere on this offense without a guy like Jack Bech. So I would have to think Jack is now, out of all the wide receivers that are out there, really cherishing this moment of how can I use this joint practice and these weeks in preseason to get further ahead up the depth chart so I can remove all doubt about what I'm able to do.
And the way he'll be able to separate and become that third guy is creating more separation in the pass game. However, I don't know if that's really his game, is creating that separation. I know, a lot has been left to be desired. We've had former wide receivers come on and analysts talk about, at the top of his route tree, he doesn't quite have that little extra to create the room. The good news is in spite of that, seemingly, he doesn't need it. As long as the ball is thrown on time and in a spot where he can get it, he's shown he has strong hands.
Yeah.
And he's a big, strong, powerful guy. I mean, at 6'1", 215, he is a heavier built receiver than most. He's almost, if he was a tight end, he'd just be on the lighter side of a tight end. I'm not saying he's in between.
Yeah, I'd be the hybrid tight end guy.
Yeah, but he's definitely, one of those guys that is clearly elite or very proficient, I should say, in the blocking game. That's one of his calling cards. But as we saw in the preseason game, and again, as we've seen, not a lot, but we've seen it in training camp, when he is passed to, it's over the middle, it's boxing out his defender and showing off his strong hands, moving the sticks. That is something that he has done time and time again. Is he ever going to be a burner? Probably not. Right? Probably not. But can he be that possession guy, a different type of possession guy that helps move the sticks? Absolutely. I think he can.
Can he be third and Renfro? Can he be that clutch receiver that either Cousins or Mendoza needs when you need to start moving the sticks and you need a very classic third down? Because what we saw last year out of the paltry 20 catches that he was able to go and make because they did not throw to him or feature him quite often enough, he made 11 first down catches by going after and watching the quarterback, coming back for the ball, and actually trying to be like your quarterback's best friend. But there was a couple of plays last year that made you feel like, all right, if this is the beginning of what a young career could be, this could be fruitful, because Bech is a football player that loves being on the field, can stay on the field for a long time, and at the same time go and be that guy, like an outlet guy, when all the other progressions have been run out.
The other part to the conversation is like, well, who's he going to be like? I don't think he's not like anybody, right? Like, he's going to be his own player.
Yeah.
So whatever he is, and that's where great coaching comes in. And it feels like Klint Kubiak is the guy. Janoko is the guy in terms of, all right, what does he do well? He's great in the run block game, and he is really good at moving the sticks and catching over the middle passes. We are going to utilize that a ton, which is what we've seen in training camp. We saw it in the preseason, either on the out routes or over the middle when he catches that touchdown. So very interested to see how Jack does in, again, year 2 against a different jersey for another opportunity here today. But Clay, we really can't. It's hard because the lead is, the lead's twofold now. It's Fernando, so we'll wait to hear what that looks like. But the other development is Jackson Powers-Johnson.
Okay, yeah.
During red zone drills on Monday, he goes down, slow to get up, stay on the sidelines for the rest of the drill. Air horn sounds, then he walks off with a trainer into the building, does not return. We see now through a myriad of different reporters, including our own here at Raider Nation Radio 920, Vinny Bonsignor, Q Myers, Brandy Flores, all in Houston this morning. All will be providing insight, sights, sounds, etc., but all are reporting Jackson Powers-Johnson is there in street clothes, watching, which again goes back to what we were saying at the end of yesterday's show and what I talked a little bit with Vinny and you about on JT's show yesterday afternoon. Caleb Rogers has an opportunity to win the job today. Now, Klint Kubiak, if that ever happens, I don't know if we'll ever hear that this was the day, but you talk about a door opening wide for a single player. I don't know if there's a bigger opportunity at this particular moment for a single player other than Caleb Rogers. Caleb Rogers has the chance today to not just prove he can do the job, but excel in it, right? I asked Vinny, sink or swim, right? Sink or swim. Is this one of those sink or swim type days? And it's not that I think he will sink. That's not why I asked it. I was trying to pose it like, do you think this is kind of a make or break day for Caleb to let those wings go and fly? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is it in the other guys? I'm a peacock. I gotta fly.
I got a beautiful plumage. I gotta show it.
You know, Caleb, when he met with us a few days ago, I think it was prior to the preseason game, he talked about, I'm not worried about 1. I'm not worried about being a 2. I'm worried about being the best I can for this team. And if that's with the 1s, then that's awesome. I'll be super happy. If that's with the 2s, then I'll be just as happy doing whatever I can to help this team win. I want this team to win. Part of that is the culture building that Klint Kubiak has already instilled, taking out the I and only putting we in there. All the players have really bought into that, and nobody's talking about themselves. He even said many times during his interview, guys, I'm not going to talk about myself. You guys I'm not going to bring up myself. But he did talk about the growth. He talked about how much better he felt. I talked to him earlier in this offseason. He told me he was making the decision to stay in Vegas to train. Yeah. And, you know, that's one of those. That's important. And it's not to say if you don't stick around, you're less than, but it shows that what he feels he needed to do to commit to take the next step. He needed to stick around. He needed to be in the building every single day during the summer in order to take that next step. Whether that's put on a good face for the new coaching staff, whether that's just put a good foot forward for himself. Caleb Rogers has been absolutely working this training camp. I mean, he is working his tail off. There were a couple times he went down during training camp. Trainers had to come out, checked him out, didn't leave, stayed, fought through whatever he fought through. Might have been nothing, but I can only tell you what I've seen. Goes right back in there, and he is just working. And so this is an opportunity for him. As much of a disappointment as this is for JPJ and Raider Nation that loves JPJ, and rightfully so, great person, all that stuff, right? This is an opportunity now for Caleb Rogers to take hold of it, never let it go. Look a couple years ago. DJ Glaze, Thayer Munford, I believe he breaks a finger or does something to his hand. I forget exactly what the situation was, but it was in the open practice at Allegiant Stadium, wasn't it? Does that sound right? It was something in and around that, because I remember DJ Glaze got the opportunity, and while he had some tough days, was hardly perfect, he never let go. He was playing so well, though, to the point where Thayer Munford came back early, despite having a giant cast on his hand or fingers, because he felt he could see that he was
slipping away, literally
and figuratively losing his grip on his job.
And he came back with a big mitt, and it didn't make a difference. And next thing you know, he was being used kind of sparingly, here and there.
Yeah, he was jumbo set.
Yeah, and it wasn't, he no longer had his role. And this could be that day where Caleb Rogers takes a hold of the right guard position and doesn't let it go. Because this is somebody that has been waiting for his moment, but the only way really for him to go and transcend is to actually get these live game reps and to get these joint practice reps. This is the only way for him to go further, to be challenged and to grow. So he will take this and run with it, because this is the moment in which, if this offense is ever going to go anywhere, the offensive line has to have this gel and chemistry that hasn't been there in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Caleb Rogers is seen as a solution for that, as JPJ is as well. But this could be that moment where he just reminds everybody, I am here for a reason, and I have been doing the work. I've been staying in Vegas. I have the ability to go and do this. Now is my time to go and prove it, because I don't have to wait behind somebody this time.
702-365-9200. What questions do you want answered today from training camp? Who has the most to gain from training camp? Raider Nation, where are you at? Joint practice is live right now in Houston. We have boots on the ground in H-Town. We'll be checking in with Vinny Bonsignore coming up, but we also want to get your calls, your texts next here on The Tailgate.
We'll take your comments and questions on X. Follow us at RNR920AM. Let's dig in to the morning tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Great question. This is going to sound weird, but I enjoyed hearing his voice again, in a game and being able to get the play call. It brought back memories of 21, and it's kind of fun to be full circle back with him again. And, he's very urgent, very intentional, very detailed. He's a great listener, and, I felt that going into this game and through the game with the way he operates. And I think it was a big reason, his demeanor, his approach, his preparation, his organization is a big reason why I think I played well with him in 21 and back in 19 and 20 as well when he was a QB coach. And I think it's a big reason, why we would be able to have success together this year is because of his approach.
Kirk Cousins talking about Klint Kubiak following the preseason opener against the Arizona Cardinals. That familiarity obviously paying dividends for Kirk Cousins early on here in training camp and in that preseason game. And you talk about familiarity, Clay. Guess who else is in H-Town? Gary Kubiak, a man who's familiar with the Houston Texans as well as some guy named Clint on the Raiders coaching staff as well. So it feels like a family affair, reunion of sorts for Gary. Down at joint practice. Vinny Bonsignore will be joining us here in a matter of minutes. But first, let's get out to the phone. 702-365-9200. What boxes are you looking to check today for the Raiders? Who do you feel has the most to gain against the Texans? Raider Dave in Denver, good morning. Welcome to the tailgate.
Hey, it's interesting you guys talk about Caleb Rogers and his opportunity. I think that's really good. Last year, I don't believe late in the season with the Texans being 10-5 and that goofy pick six that Geno threw that kind of blew the whole game. I don't think that was a game where JPJ played, so there wouldn't be any film against these guys. Did you say what JPJ's reason for being in street clothes is today?
He got injured during practice yesterday. No idea what the injury is, and they obviously don't report injuries during training camp.
Well, and the parallel I think that's interesting is not only is it Rodgers' most pristine opportunity to make a starter of himself, I think today and possibly tomorrow is really the only time that Mendoza can do the same. I don't think if unless he wows against a formidable AFC opponent like this and a really good top 5 defensive line, and a lot of that has to do with how the offensive line of the Raiders is going to go ahead and handle their business too. But I really don't think that there's any chance for Mendoza to start sans injury to anybody else, besides taking his opportunities today if he really gets them against the ones. But I think today would be the day and the only day that he would be able to cement the fact that he would start this game on Thursday and then rest the rest of the preseason. So I wish Rodgers all the best. I just want the best 5 to be out there. JPJ is one of my favorite players too. I met him and he's pretty awesome. But man, you got to keep all the healthy ones out there and all the ones that are going to block the best. And the Raiders last year took this team for 145 yards rushing. So I have a feeling they're going to want to shore that up pretty good. I think the Raiders are going to get all that they can handle this week in practice.
Raider Dave in Denver, thanks so much for the phone call. Interesting take as we bring Vinny Bonsignore back up online live from Houston at the joint practice between the Raiders and Texans. And Vinny, we're talking to Caleb Rogers and the wide open door of opportunity that sits at his feet, at least for today's purposes in today's practice. But Raider Dave in Denver says this might be the last and only day Fernando Mendoza has a chance to truly wow the coaching staff to win the starting job ahead of week 1. Your thoughts?
Well, he just dropped a dime to Brock Bowers against working with the first team offense. Good for about 25 yards. Dropped it right into zone coverage. A beautiful throw. So he's getting some really good work in right now, so a great play to end a little bit of a segment right there on a big gainer, and has looked solid today. It was a little bit. I think for everybody. Going up against this Houston Texans defense, it's a little bit of a shock to the system how fast they are and how physical they are. But Fernando Mendoza has gotten better as the practice went on, and he just dropped a beautiful pass to Brock Bowers for a long game.
So once again, help set the scene again. Are we looking at team drills right now? What does this rotation look like if Fernando is getting run with the ones?
They just wrapped up a full team period. First team offense, first team defense, second team offense, second team defense. Fernando was getting, run with both the first and second team. What I just described right there was him working with the first team offense against the Texans' first team defense, and it was a really nice throw right there.
All right, who else is out there for the wide receiver room? Who's trying to make some separation right now?
Everyone's out there. There's been a lot of work to the running backs. These guys cover really well. There was a nice catch by Malik Benson that came on a throw from Aiden O'Connell a little bit earlier. Okay. But quite honestly, the wide receivers haven't really done much yet. There's been throws to the middle of the field to Ashton Genty. There was a throw from Fernando to Ian Thomas, the tight end, and then he also I forget exactly who the completion was to in an earlier 11-on-11 period, but it was good for a first down for Fernando. And then again, that was the play of the day so far, the throw to Brock Bowers.
Caleb Rogers getting run with the ones. Jackson Powers Johnson in street clothes with the team. The opportunity for Rogers early on in practice, I know, but what does it look like?
Yeah, I think the pass protection has gotten better. The run protection has gotten slightly better, but it was a struggle early on against that first team, defense with the Raiders' first team offense. There was one time I was standing with Q, and there was a nice hole for Ashton Genty, and that hole closed in a hurry. So they were able to bottle it up for just about a 3-yard gain. It looked like it was going to break for about 15-20, but this is such a fast, aggressive defense that they were like, no, that's not going to happen. So there's been a couple of snap exchange issues. In the shotgun, there was a snap that fell on the ground with Fernando, and I did not see who the center was on that play. But there's been a couple of hiccups. But for the most part, Fernando and the Raiders are getting quality work in, and I thought in that last period for Fernando when he was out there with the first team offense, he didn't throw an incompletion, and he capped it all off with the throw to Brock Bowers.
How often do you see fullback Connor Hayward in there? He's I would say 20% of the time. They're doing a lot of formations. There's been a lot of 12 personnel. There's been some 13 personnel, but not anything overly or anything like that. They've been mixing him in though.
All right, Vinny. I asked you earlier the demeanor. What's the competitive juices look like? Is it getting testy yet?
No, not at all.
Excellent.
It's highly competitive, extremely physical, but everybody has the proper perspective. So far, there's no turds out here. Let's put it that way. On either side, I think they got the memo that this is about work, not stupidity, and not trying to be the toughest guy in a non-football way. That's dumb. Let the dummies do all that. I'm not to say that there won't be at some point, something that goes down, but it's been a crisp, workman-like, really effective, learning experience and experience for both teams right now.
Vinny Bonsignore live in Houston. Vinny, keep that notebook open. We're going to check back here in a little bit, live from H-Town for the joint practice between the Raiders and Texans. Hour number 2 on the way here for the morning tailgate. It's Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
I'll just tell the Raider Nation that we have to earn your trust. We got to earn those seats in the stands by putting a great product on the field. Words will not do it. It's our actions.
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignore, and Clay Baker on Raider Nation Radio 920. Jesse Merrick covers the Raiders with the Silver and Black Sports Network, and he's live with the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Flying through into hour number 2 here on the Morning Tailgate. It's Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the Silver and Black. Vince Sapienza, Clay Baker coming live here from Las Vegas on a Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. Raider Nation Radio 920 has boots on the ground in H-Town. Texans, Raiders, joint practice. Vinny Bonsignore, Hugh Myers will be joining us later here in hour number 2 to continue to get the sight sounds from Houston of all the happenings. We've got a little bit to chew on from hour number 1 as we are midway through that joint practice in Houston. And in the meantime, we need to bring on another expert to talk about what we've been hearing, seeing, reading, talking about with our own eyeballs. That's right, we talk with our eyeballs from time to time. It's Jesse Merrick with the Silver and Black Sports Network, award-winning sportscaster here in Las Vegas. Jesse, good morning, welcome. And this is a day we've been had circled on the calendar for not just weeks, but months, really. A day players and coaches hold in high regard, the joint practice. Let's start with the quarterback development. We're being told that Fernando Mendoza getting sprinkled in with the ones on offense, and as last checked with Vinny Bonsignor, throwing a dime to Brock Bowers. The fact that Klint Kubiak says he needs more reps, the fact that we are now hearing, seeing, reading that he is getting run with the ones, that tells you what about Fernando Mendoza?
Yeah, hey, morning, guys. That tells me things are going according to plan, right? I'm not trying to get too high or low on it. I mean, I think this was probably their plan the whole way. How could you not head out to Houston and get the kid some reps with the ones to see how he looks against the defense? I think, again, his performance is going to be the thing that is the most important thing. And it sounds like so far so good. I'd seen a couple of people I know, the ESPN reporter for the Texans was saying that Fernando had a couple tight window throws, and then obviously that fadeaway to Brock there, someone was in his face, just dropping a dime, as Vinny said. I heard that as well. And, I mean, look, this is big because this is an opportunity for Fernando just to get the conversation going and make it hard for the coaching staff to forget about this performance against the Texans. You know, because I, like a lot of people out there, do think that Kirk is going to be the guy, that's who they want to be the guy, and that they're going to sit Fernando as long as they possibly can. But this is where you can start to plant those seeds of doubt in this one here against the Texans. And like I said, when the coaches are having their meetings, having to sit there and talk, like, well, look what he did against the Texans in a joint practice where all these players constantly over the years, how many times we talk to these guys, they say they get more out of that. They say the defenses are doing more. It's more of a real, like, live game situation because coaches aren't putting that stuff out there in the preseason. You know, so for him to be able to do it and so far be off to a really good start against his Texans defense, that's a really good sign for where he's at in his development. And again, even though I think it is according to plan, just the trust that this coaching staff has in him to throw him out there and do that right now too.
Well, let me ask you this then. How much do you feel Fernando Mendoza has closed the gap from preseason game number 1? Because, again, we have talked about on this show, specifically with you as well, about Fernando running his own race, right? Like when he's ready and there, then you can ask the question where the team is at, can they protect him, etc. But in his particular play, how close do you think, how much has he closed the gap on Kirk Cousins, if any?
I think he made some good strides in that first preseason game. I mean, again, a lot of people talking about they wanted to see him go through reads. Well, he did that. People wanted to see him play from under center. He did that. He made throws over the middle doing that, you know. So those are big strides forward for him. And you hear some people that were doubting him, coming into the league that now kind of not changing their tune, but saying like, hey, impressive first outing. And then you hear these things here against the Texans. So I think he's making up some ground, but I still just go back to what we've seen out there at practice every day. And it's not some like night and day difference. I'm not trying to make it out like that. But even just yesterday, for instance, in the red zone period, there were 2 red zone periods, and Kirk's out there, slinging around. He had 5 passing touchdowns in those 2 red zone periods to Fernando's 2. And so it's one of those things where just the operation of the offense is just a bit faster. It seems like it's a bit more like on point when Kirk is out there because he's a vet. He's been there, done that. This is kind of like old hat for him, I think, for lack of a better word. Whereas Fernando is kind of lacking maybe the consistency down in and down out with some of those things, operating at that same higher level, I think. So while he's made up ground, I think to me, it still seems pretty obvious that it's Kirk Cousins. And that's, again, not a knock on Fernando. Like, he's making the progression of a rookie right now, and I think he's where he should be, and I think it is only a matter of time. So we're really having those conversations, where we're sitting there saying, hey, it's really close. And normally in those situations, I think you go with the rookie. In this situation with the Raiders, players. If it's close, I still do think that they're going with Kirk just because this is what they've said their plan is the whole time, and it seems like they're dead set on sticking with that. So I think this situation is a little different than in years past because, again, you have Kirk Cousins who's got history with his staff and had a lot of success with them back in Minnesota. It's not like some of the other situations out there where you're going out there with a pretty bad quarterback situation rather than going with the number one overall pick.
Well, with that being said, I mean, everyone was always so curious, is Fernando ahead of schedule? But as you're alluding to, maybe Kirk Cousins is right in schedule. Maybe he's right in time. Yeah. And this is an important factor to consider because who gives you a best chance not only to win a game, but who gives you the best chance to get all the weapons utilized in this offense and for everything to be running correctly the way Kubiak wants it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, Clay. Like just on schedule. Like what I've been saying about Kirk is like he just like when you're out there, you're like that looks like Kirk Cousins to me, you know. So he looks like as advertised, and so that's I think a good way to say it that he's on schedule. And again, I think he gives you a better read on the rest of the team right now because you're not having those moments where you're like, all right, hey, this is your first actual NFL game in the regular season, week 1 at home against the Miami Dolphins, when teams are literally not worried about what they're showing and everything. They're throwing the whole playbook out there to try and stop you and making adjustments and all those things. You're not trying, and I'm not saying Fernando can't do that. I'm just saying you are not bringing him along while also trying to get a read on your offense and get everybody else moving in the right direction as well. You know, so Kirk just gives you, I think, a better launching point right now. Now, will that be the case all season long? I don't know. Probably not. And that's the question and the conversation that the coaching staff will be having. And that's the thing, too, is like we're not going to be out there watching the entirety of practice at those times. So we're going to have to hear it from the coaches, and their actions will tell us that. But for now, yeah, Kirk is on schedule, and I think on schedule meaning ahead of Fernando at this stage of the game, as he should be a guy with that many years in the league.
It's Jesse Merrick, Silver and Black Sports Network, joining us here on the Morning Tailgate. Obviously, for one player, not good. Another player, great. Jackson Powers Johnson goes down yesterday at practice, leaves with a trainer, does not return. Seen this morning in Houston in street clothes, meaning the door of opportunity is wide open for second-year man Caleb Rogers.
No, it definitely is.
Yeah, how do you qualify what today means for Caleb Rogers and for however long JPJ may not be able to participate in terms of taking hold of this opportunity and not looking back?
Yeah, the big thing is going to be how long is JPJ out, because then that shows you what the runway looks like for Caleb, and this is obviously probably going to be a day-to-day type of deal. But let's say, and we're projecting here, but let's say JPJ can't go in the preseason game. That's going to be a lot of reps in very important situations, in joint practices against a really good Texans team, and getting a lot of burn there against the Texans in that preseason game. And then we'll see what it looks like when they come back to Vegas. But just between, let's just say, this preseason game and the practice, or even if you want to take just the practice, again, a really good Houston Texans team that is going to be able to throw out there whatever they want to because they're not worried about their plays being out there. That I think is one of those things, as I said with Fernando, he can make those coaches have that conversation. In this case, like it's that plus like 5x, whatever you want to say. Like, Caleb can make that conversation where it's like, hey, we need to give this kid more reps, and he can move himself into the driver's seat. And then if he continues to play well, he doesn't have to relinquish that driver's seat, So this is massive. It's a big stage of the game right here, too, because I think this staff, I get the vibe, the way that they treated the offensive line with how long they went before they started making any changes, and really only making changes at right guard, again, tells you that there is some doubt with them about JPJ and being able to be the guy there. That to me says a lot. And so they're going to want to figure out who their offensive line is because they waited so long. They want to let that unit gel. So if Caleb slips in and he's playing well and that unit's working well together, it's probably going to be hard for them to really start making more and more changes as we get deeper into camp and closer to the start of the regular season. So big opportunity for Caleb here. And also, too, with Jackson, like, look, you can't control injuries. It just happens. But, like, at the end of the day, too, like, it's the NFL, and you got to be available. And this is something that he struggled with throughout his career, So opportunity is right there in front of Caleb. And this is probably the conversations that some of this coaching staff is having, too, knowing making his history, saying, hey, this is a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy and all those things, and we already had some doubts here about that spot. Well, here's the kid in Caleb. Let's see what he can do. They've got tape on him from last year, not in their system, but they've got tape from him last year, and now they're going to see it with their own eyes against this Texans team. Massive opportunity for him, and again, one of those things where he could not relinquish the share of reps. I mean, it's mostly been JPJ. He's taken more reps. Now Caleb can tilt that more in his favor, and maybe it's more 60-40, 70-30, who knows? And then all of a sudden, when JPJ is out there, he's playing catch-up, and that's a scary position to be in when there was already some doubts about your standing on this team as a starter.
Well, there's also, this is a big week for not only, obviously, Caleb Rogers, but also guys in the wide receiver room that are trying to find a certain role, to find some separation. Who do you feel like this is the most important week for them to find a gain, either in the joint practice or in the preseason game, out of the wide receiver room?
Yeah, I mean, I think for starters, we need to see consistency. We've seen Jalen Naylor the last couple of days. The connection between him and Kirk has looked really good. I think we need to see that more consistently, continue to stack those days. Trey Tucker, we need to see his continued involvement, but continue again stacking days. Because as we talk about the receiver room, what have we talked about most? Malik Benson, right? I mean, that's the guy that's flashed the most and the most consistently amongst that group. So I think you need to see it from the guys that have been there a bit more. And let's be real, the staff goes and brings in Noah Brown. That's telling you something there. I mean, they're putting those guys on notice. Now, yes, this is a guy that's been a bit of a journeyman and whatnot, but probably, the victim of some injuries and things like that. And again, just like with JPJ, although it's not always your fault, you do need to be available. They're not going to wait around for you. But this is a guy who can take the lid off of a defense too. A bigger dude who can probably do a little bit more as well. So he's a guy that can come in and can fit into this offense. And again, the staff chose him. Now, I'm not expecting massive things from him, but maybe there's a world where he's your number 3 wide receiver, or something like that. So wait and see on that one. So it's important for him because he just joined, but I would say that a guy like Trey Tucker probably on notice. We saw what Jack Besh did in the preseason game. Need to see if he gets more opportunities, what he does with those at practice, because as Klint and Kirk both said when I asked him about him, that he hasn't had very many opportunities in the preseason in practices. He did in the game, and he showed out in really important situations, and that means a lot. But personally, I think that's the role that he's going to be in. But and also, too, Dante Thornton Jr., that's going to be something. He's still not out there, obviously. And so wait and see when he kind of seems like he's on notice. I feel like we've been talking about him being on notice since camp started and hasn't been out there. And so, if and when he comes back, now he's behind the 8 ball further with Noah Brown coming in there. So, yeah, I think honestly all of them kind of need to get a little more consistent outside of Malik Benson because he's been the most consistent, I think, at this point, which is saying a lot.
Jesse Merrick, a couple more for you here. Joining us live, Raider Nation Radio 920, the morning tailgate. It's one preseason game. It's one preseason game. Okay.
But where's the but, Vince?
Yeah.
Where's the but? There's a but.
I'm looking at, I'm bouncing back between Raiders, Houston's joint practice, the different beat reporters on both different sidelines. It's one piece of information, but if there was an area of concern that you have for the Raiders moving forward, is it more so in the defensive line and the lack of pass rush / run stopping ability, or is it in the secondary, particularly what we saw or didn't see in pass coverage on Thursday night?
Ooh, that's a good question. And although I think the defensive line bears a lot of the responsibility, I go back to kind of what I was talking about, that these coaches, and Rob Leonard in particular too, he's not going to throw a lot out there. The Cardinals did, which was crazy. Their defensive coordinator started throwing out some stuff that they're going to be running during the year. But Rob Leonard's not trying to give anything away. He's not going to throw any of those exotic blitz packages or things like that out there. I think this is a team that's going to be more aggressive when the season comes around. I think they're going to be doing some more unique things. And so I think we'll see some of that stuff happen because they're going to have to figure out a way to generate pressure. So if they were out there running all their stuff and they weren't getting home, then I'd be sounding the alarm on the D-line. Even again, I know Max wasn't out there, but you can't let that be your Achilles heel. Yes, Max is an otherworldly player, and when he's out there, he makes a massive difference, obviously. But you still need to be able to figure out a way to do it when he's not out there. But all the caveats of not running their full, defense, not having their full arsenal or their full tool bag to work with, that's where I'm a kind of a wait and see mode going forward. That's the thing that I think is interesting to kind of see going forward. So I put the onus a bit more on the corners, even though they were playing a lot of press bail, which was interesting in some of the situations that they were in. But given the conversation we've had about the receivers and the lack of confidence that I think a lot of people have in that wide receiver room, and as good as the corners looked, and then they come out and they're giving up, 16 straight completions to start the game, that's where you start to wonder, okay, did they look good against a bad receiver group, or what's going on there? So I think we need to see more from them. That's where I would say more of my worry is, and it's a lot of young guys outside of Stokes. I feel confident in Stokes, to be honest, because he looked good last year. It's the young guys, and that's where the unknown is. We don't know what these guys are. Again, they've looked good in practice, but we got to see it going forward. So more of my worry, I would say, if I'm a Raiders fan, would be placed on the corners than it is the D-line right now before they're able to throw out their full arsenal, blitzes and different looks and mixing things up like that.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's a young group. However, I would have to think Rob Leonard and all the other coaches wanted to make sure that lessons were learned off that game footage, especially for somebody like Jermod McCoy. What kind of an about face do you imagine he will take either this week or from weeks now on after that first preseason week one, his first game in many a time?
Yeah. This is a guy I think I've probably told you guys or anybody that's put a mic around me that I think with him it's a matter of time until he starts to make his run, because he's just acclimating back. Being out of football for an entire year, especially at corner where you're relying so much on instinct, and reacting to what the offense is doing and all of that. That's a really hard position to come back to after that much time off. So, I expected that he was going to get those opportunities, and I didn't think it was going to be that great, and it's not like he was getting cooked in, the middle of the field and burned. He was in the red zone, on goal line fades. Again, I'm not trying to make, excuses for the kid by any means, but those are obviously critical situations, but it's not like he's getting routed up and all this different stuff all the time. He was there. It's hey, you just got to get a little more in the guy's face, and maybe, again, hopefully not playing press bail in those situations in a normal game, all that stuff. At the end of the day, you do have to cover, and he didn't, but I think he's going to be making bigger strides week by week, probably more so than a lot of other guys on this team, just because there is so much rust to shake off with him, and again too, his body's just getting acclimated to playing football down in and down out again. I remember, and I'm not trying to sit here and play the comparison game between me and NFL players any bit, but when I was in college, when we were in camp, the first couple weeks of camp, your legs are cooked. You can barely get out of bed. I can't imagine taking an entire year off. That's after having a whole summer of training and everything like that. Yeah. And so having an entire year off to do that, this dude's legs on a day-to-day basis, he's probably already got camp legs trying to work his way through that. So, I just think he's going to be one of those guys that slowly but surely ramps up. And when he gets into a groove, which honestly may not be till the first month of the season, and I think that's okay. Because, again, the Raiders got him with that lottery ticket pick at the top of the fourth round. If it takes more time with him, but he returns to form, who cares when it happens? It just needs to happen. And I think it's one of those things where everybody needs to kind of wait and see and be patient with him as he reacclimates to playing football in everything that comes into it. The mental side, the physical side, all of it.
It's Jesse Merrick, Silver and Black Sports Network. Jesse, what do we got on tap ahead of preseason game number 2 on Thursday?
Yeah. So since I'm not out there in Houston, nothing from me today. I'm watching from afar. I got a lot of meetings and things like that. Obviously, I'll tweet out some updates and analysis of what I've heard from folks out there, but no podcast for me today. The next time you guys hear me will be after the Texans game. Ryan Hogue and I will be jumping on, breaking down what we saw from Fernando, from Kirk, and all them if they're out there, and just kind of breaking down the game and analyzing what we saw in preseason game number 2 and what kind of strides or lack thereof the team seems to be making.
At Jesse SBSN on the X, silverandblacksportsnetwork.com. Go check out their YouTube page. Jesse, appreciate you as always, brother. We'll see you on We'll see you. When will we see you? When's
Thursday, yeah. I guess the next day will be what, Saturday?
Sunday?
Saturday.
We'll see you Saturday, brother.
Yeah. All right,
appreciate
guys, take it easy.
Thanks. Jesse Merrick, Silver and Black Sports Network. Forgot what day it was. And then I thought we were at Allegiant on Thursday. We're not. We're not, Clay.
Well, some of us may not be.
The reason why I asked Jesse that question, what he was most concerned about, I'm seeing a lot of the Houston Texans beat reporters talking about some big runs being had. Don't like that. That doesn't sound good. So we're going to get some more answers. And to get some more answers, Q Myers of Unnecessary Roughness and Raider Nation Radio 920 will be joining us after the break. 702-365-9200. What questions do you want answered today from today's joint practice between the Texans and Raiders? It's Raider Nation Radio 920.
You can always catch up with the Morning Tailgate 24/7 for streaming and podcasts. Get the LV Sports Network app, free to use and download. Now, let's get back to the Morning Tailgate.
I think you look at Robbie, you can tell the intensity that he coaches with. You can tell it's so genuine. It comes from a real place. I figured that out, day one that I got here, once I got traded, that, he was about it, right? So I think when you see somebody like that transition over to defensive coordinator, you have guys that just want to play for that guy. It's guys who are really willing to run through a brick wall for somebody like that because they see that, all the energy is real, the juice is real, the 1-2 is real. So it's hard not to have that pervade the entire unit.
That's Thomas Booker talking about first time D coordinator Rob Leonard, and we bring that up because we're seeing reports of the Houston Texans breaking off some long runs. Not what you want to hear if you're Raider Nation, especially after what you didn't see in the secondary in preseason game number 1. We're trying to answer those questions the only way we know how. Boots on the ground, Raider Nation Radio. They're in H-Town. Vinny Bonsignor and Q Myers. Q's been out there, will be out there all week long doing his shows, giving us the ins, outs. Q! Say it ain't so. Please tell me the defense isn't what these Houston beat reporters are saying is. Good morning, Q. Thanks so much for joining us. Set the scene for us. What does it look like out there?
Yeah, and thanks for having me on. It's great to be out here in Houston and see the team go up against another team, especially a playoff team, especially a team that has aspirations to potentially go to the Super Bowl. And look, they have a Super Bowl caliber defense. So one, it's a really good challenge for Kirk Cousins, Fernando Mendoza, and this Raiders offense. But like you mentioned coming in, talking about the defense, you've seen moments where they've had guys. Houston has had guys just running wide open. There was a couple busted plays as far as play action pass going, and as I was standing next to Kirk Morrison, and he was looking at the replay of it, it was just a communication breakdown. And so that's happened here and there with the 1s and 2s. And look, we saw that on Thursday. We saw communication breakdowns. This is a young team. It's a young secondary. They're still trying to figure out their way. They're still trying to figure out exactly how this is all being put together and what Robbie Leonard's vision is. So there's going to be those kind of fundamental breakdowns. It's just something that you're going to have to understand. But with that being said, that's why this setting, this joint practice that they have against the Texans, is such a good thing, because you can really start to see, all right, this is how we stack up against a really good team in the National Football League. So there's been some good that we've seen. There's been some bad. And there's going to be some really good film that Klint Kubiak is going to be able to go back and say, okay, this is where we need to get better at. So it's still going on right now, but it's been good so far, I think.
How can you kind of gauge maybe with the direction of where this young secondary is going from preseason week 1 to now? Do you think lessons have been learned from what they were able to see against the Cardinals?
Yeah, I think they saw those lessons when they went and checked out the film the next day. They probably realized, man, there were so many mistakes and so many breakdowns that we had, and there was some that was really good technique. They just didn't finish. And so I think that's what it's all about, is finishing the play, finishing the rep, understanding that, okay, this is my read. I'm right there. Trust what I know, and then just go make a play. So that's what they're trying to do, take that next step. You see that, but again, I go back to the fact that this Houston Texans team is the playoff team, and you see some of that out here today, and it gives you a good measuring stick of where this Raiders team stacks up at this stage of the game, early in the process. And this is when you want them to make mistakes. This is when you want them to have those teaching moments. You don't want to have it in October. You want to have it right now in August, and that's what they're going through.
Just tell me they didn't complete their first 15 passes like they did against Arizona.
They did not. They did not complete their first 15 passes.
There we go. That's progress.
Right.
That's progress,
Yeah.
Raider Nation. We're talking to Q Myers, Unnecessary Roughness, Raider Nation Radio 920, Locked On Raiders. Q, we kind of buried the lead, and that's on me, but that's fine. Fernando Mendoza getting some run with the 1s. How has he looked? What do you think this means in terms of the progression, the ascent of number 15?
Yeah, I think it's a good, and that's what Klint Kubiak told us on Friday when he met with us after the game, that he was going to work on a plan. Him and the coaching staff were working on a plan to get him reps with the ones, and you're seeing it out here in fruition, coming to fruition. And he had a really nice pass to Brock Bowers, who is always open, as you know, Vince, being out there at practice every day. You just can't cover him, and that was an incredible pass. He had an interception that wasn't so great. It looked like the wide receiver might have ran the wrong route, or just a bad read, and he's going to have those moments. But I think Fernando is understanding what he's supposed to be doing. He gets more and more comfortable each and every time he gets on the grass, and he gets more reps. And, seeing him out there with the ones, you're starting to get an understanding of what, he can do. Now, the one thing about it is it's not a lot of time to allow a play to develop, right? I mean, it's a lot of short stuff for the Raiders just because, man, that Texans defense, man, that defensive line, I call them the bloodthirsty Pirates, man, because they definitely get after the quarterback. They've made life pretty difficult for the quarterback to have any success, and the running game on top of that.
Yeah, Matt Burke, the defensive coordinator, has these guys unleashed. It's crazy to watch how they go and attack the quarterback, but they also attack the run. How is the Raiders' run game beginning to develop, and how are they able to maybe even incorporate, even without JPJ and Caleb Rogers filling in for him, how does that starting to look?
Well, I mean, look, the running game is a work in progress, right? You see moments where Genty has a little bit of hole here and there. Mike Washington continues to, look like he's going to be a good compliment to him as well. But, again, when you have a team defense like the Texans do, man, that stopping the run, it's like there was a hole there, and I was standing next to Vinny, and we're like, oh, there's the hole. Ooh, it just closed up that quickly. Like, before we even get to say, there it is right there, it closes up so fast. They're so quick. So that, to me, is going to be the big tell sign is, can this offensive line, can they gel? JPJ being out here in street clothes doesn't help, because now you give all the first team reps to Caleb Rogers. So as far as I'm concerned, JPJ just loses ground, right? And I mean, you got to be out there to compete and give yourself an opportunity. And so he's not out there. I don't know the extent of how long he's going to be out. Is he going to play on Thursday? We have no idea, obviously. But it doesn't help this offensive line come together when a guy that you expected to be a key cog isn't out there. Now, I was standing there while John McClain was talking to Gary Kubiak this morning, and Rick Dennison came over, and he's excited about the offensive line. So when the offensive line coach comes over and says, yeah, I'm really excited about it, obviously Tyler Linderbaum is a huge addition. They said that they needed to have that center, and they went and got that center. And so I think that they are very confident this offensive line is going to come together, but it's still a work in progress, and JPJ missing time doesn't help.
Yeah, disappointed for Jackson Powers-Johnson, obviously, for him personally, for Raider Nation as a whole. You and I both know how much the nation loves JPJ and the personality. That being said, the door is wide open for Caleb Rogers, and to the point of continuity being key for the offensive line, if there was one person or one position that I guess could afford to go down, it's that one, because there has been a rotation. So you do have still some continuity with Caleb Rogers because there has been a rotation for the last number of weeks. When you look at organizationally, you don't want to see guys injured, but it's part of the process. For Caleb, though, and him sticking around this offseason here in Vegas and working his tail off, I mean, opportunity is at this kid's feet right now, and it feels like today, Thursday, again, we don't know the status of JPJ, but this feels like could be the start of a new beginning.
Yeah, it really does, and I know that a lot of Raider Nation doesn't want to hear that. They got on me tough yesterday when I was talking about that, and, hey, don't throw him overboard yet. And I was like, I'm not. I'm just saying that, if JPJ is not available, he doesn't do any good for the team. I mean, you can't help the team get better if you're not on the field, and I think he's a hell of a player. But, the reality is he's played in 23 games out of 34 potentially, right, in his short career. So that's not a good ratio. That's not what you want. And you're right. When the opportunity opens the door, you have to take it. And I think Caleb Rogers is doing that with his availability. And I go back to 2024 training camp when we were all in Costa Mesa, and Thayer Mumford went down day one. And now here comes this rookie, this third-round pick out of Maryland, DJ Glaze, and he takes over at the right tackle spot. And guess what? He ain't come off the field since. You know what I mean? So I look at it like that. That's how you meet opportunity, you take advantage of it. And this is the opportunity for Caleb Rogers. Now, he's got to obviously do his job. Yeah. He's got to stand up, and be a part of that. But I think what we saw last year from him, we realized he has ability. He has the want to. He has a good kind of understanding what he's supposed to be doing. Now he has to take it to the next level. But as long as the guy that he's competing with ain't out there competing, he's already a step ahead.
It might be tough because obviously all eyes are on that position because JPJ goes down. But how noticeable, for the good or bad, was 76 out there?
No, I think he looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, again, for an offensive line that's still trying to come together and they're going up against those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, really, nobody's looking great against those guys right now. Linderbaum excluded. He looks great against everybody. I mean, even, some of those Texans defenders, you can hear them when they walk by like, yeah, he's a problem, which is a good thing. That's a good thing for the Raiders, but they need to have 5 problems on that offensive line, not just 1 problem. So they're working on putting this thing together. And again, these joint practices to me are so critical and key because you're going to learn a lot. They're going to get more reps going against the Texans the ones right now in practice than they are on Thursday. So that to me is where you start to see how this team is put together.
On the defensive side, when I hear about big runs and big plays, it makes me wonder how well the defensive line is beginning to work, as well as with the linebackers. Who has the most to lose out of this joint practice and week 2 in Houston on the defensive side?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I think the defensive line, Tonka Hemingway sliding in there already with the ones only in year 2. Saw a little bit from him, but one thing that was pointed out to me by someone that knows exactly what they're talking about was the fact that he was doing a lot of shoulder tackling as opposed to wrapping up, and that's not very good. Matter of fact, it was pointed out to me that if you pay attention to T. Book's hands, Thomas Booker, he has the best hands along that defensive line, just the way that he's able to control you, from that defensive line position. And so that's something that I took that little piece of information and just continued to watch. And, Tonka's got to do a little bit better wrapping up as opposed to just going with the shoulder when he's going for the tackle. And, to me, it was a little intriguing that he was off on Sunday. I know Klint Kubiak said it was a rest day, but he's a second-year guy. He's a second-year guy, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I would want to be out there for every rep I can get, especially if they just slid me up to the first team. I wouldn't want to miss anything. So, again, I can't tell you what's real, what's not real, what's concerning, what's not concerning. But to me, if I'm him, I would want to get as many reps as possible. So hopefully everything is good with him.
Q, I don't want to, speculate too much, but a guy who wins the offseason award for the work in the weight room feels like he's puffing out his chest a little bit. Maybe I don't need to wrap up anymore. Maybe I'm just so strong now. I just need to bump my shoulders. I've been doing that military press. I'm feeling myself. I don't know.
Should be enough.
I kid. All right, Q. Did we kick out Nick Caserio from his office? Is that where we're going to be posted up for unnecessary roughness later today from 2 to 5?
No, I got a nice little Airbnb that's about 3 or 4 minutes away from here, and I got everything set up, man. That's almost like I'm at a home away from home. It's like my studio already away from home. So I believe JT's show is going to generate from there as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But, there we go. So that's what we're working on. It's going to be fun this afternoon. John McClain, he actually picked me up this morning and brought me over here. So I get the general will be on the show today.
Wow.
So that's always great. Yeah, catching up with him. And he's a wealth of knowledge. He's forgot more football than I'll ever know, which is great to, just to be around that kind of a guy. And seen Andre Johnson out here, Chris Long out here, and just seeing all the different, Texans alumni or just NFL alumni. Darren Sproles is part of the Texans coaching staff, so saw him earlier today and got to catch up with him. And I don't know about you guys if this ever happens. I mean, this is not a humble brag on my part, but as I stand next to like Kirk Morrison and Jason Horowitz, and Kirk starts talking to former players, and I'm standing around there talking, nobody ever thinks that I'm a media guy. They just kind of think like, oh yeah, he belongs there. And so John McClain told me earlier today, he was like, hey man, you're past the change. You got to be over here for media. I said, yeah, I don't think they know, John. He's like, yeah, I guess they think you're a former player. And I was like, hey man, as long as they think it, I'll roll with it. I'm not.
You fake it till you make it. You fake it till you make it. Until somebody stops you, you keep moving. You keep marching. Q, we appreciate you as always. Unnecessary roughness from 2 to 5. Locked on Raiders. Q, you're the man. We appreciate you. We'll be doing it all week, checking in all week for the ins, outs, sights, sounds of everything that, man, and getting the 5-star treatment. It's not just John McClain's on the show. He's getting the pickup to practice.
Got the pickup.
Damn.
Got the pickup.
Well done,
and
Q.
Jack Bech is going to be on the show today, too. I got Jack Bech after practice, so that's going to be fun, too.
Love it.
So there you go.
Jack Bech, one-on-one with Q Myers. Unnecessary roughness. Q, appreciate you. Thanks so much. We'll be checking in. Again, it is the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio, 920. Vinny Bonsignore will be joining us here coming up to get his perspective. Sight sounds good and bad from the Raiders-Texans joint practice. Klint Kubiak set to meet with the media at large in and around 9 p.m. or 9 a.m., I should say, Pacific time. We will bring that to you here live on Raider Nation Radio 920 when it becomes available, 702-365-9200. But first.
All right, we could be prize gifters today. We got a couple sets of prizes. We got movie tickets to go see the premiere of Mutiny with Jason Stratham. You can be caller number 9 at 702-365-9200. This is for the premiere of August 21st. Be caller 9, 702-365-9200.
We'll take your comments and questions on X. Follow us at RNR 920 AM. Let's dig in to the morning tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Welcome back inside the morning tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. Raiders Texans joint practice set to be wrapping up here in the next 15 minutes or so. Let's get out to the text line. Raider Sean says, gents, I hope our O-line gets a lot better working against the Texans' D-line and even get some confidence that if they can hold up with them, they can hold up with anyone. Also want to give a shout-out to my wonderful wife today. 8-year wedding anniversary. Love you, Raider Sarah.
All right.
I did my job converting her to the dark side because her whole family are Niners fans. Gross. LOL. God bless. Go Raiders. Well, happy anniversary. Shout out Raider Sarah from Raider Sean and your friends here at Raider Nation Radio 920.
Happy anniversary and many more.
Many more. That's awesome. Boy, that's probably a tough sell. Whole family's Niner fans and moving her over to silver and black. Well done. It's almost like a minor miracle, dare I say.
It's like reprogramming.
Yeah. Reset to factory settings and then start anew. Jason up on the text line says, it is time for Caleb Rogers to step up. JPJ probably won't make the team. Eesh. I don't know about not making it. We'll see. We'll see. Again, not going to speculate on any injuries. No idea where any of that stands on JPJ. All we do know is that he injured yesterday, didn't finish practice, in street clothes today with the team, though, in Houston. So that in itself, a good sign, but again, not a good sign that he's not practicing. Michael up on the text line, this is similar to how Alex Smith lost his job in San Francisco. Also in Kansas City. Injuries happen beyond players' control, but who is behind waiting for an opportunity? And that opportunity is at the foot right now, seemingly feet of one Caleb Rogers. Now, if you're looking at social media as it stands in the present moment, you're probably seeing that the Houston Texans offense is kind of moving up and down the field. We just spoke with Q Myers of Unnecessary Roughness here on Raider Nation Radio and says, look, there's been good, there's been bad. The things that he has seen standing next to Kirk Morrison, former Raider linebackers, it's communication. A few things going on with the communication issues on the defensive side of the ball, which, again, not necessarily a surprise, I would categorize it. As you're still trying to, figure things out. We've talked about this a ton. There's a whole bunch of new in this entire team. I think the average age of the Raiders roster right now, Clay, is 25.7. Mm-hmm. I think I'm over under 0.1 or 2 on the tenths there, but that would serve as, top 5, top 6 youngest team in the NFL.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Definitely is there. Yeah.
This is not me painting excuses picture. I'm simply giving reasons as to why this would be happening. You have a first year defensive coordinator in Rob Leonard. You have a whole bunch of new pieces on the defensive side of things. You're imposing and implementing a new defense, a quote-unquote multiple defense where you have a lot of guys doing a lot of different things. So there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be errors. You don't like hearing the communication errors because that's the part where he's talking about, I want a noisy defense. I want a noisy secondary. I want a noisy linebacker room, kind of talking that out. So that's something that needs to be fixed. But you go back to that first preseason game, the Arizona Cardinals completed 15 straight passes. That is not what you want to be hearing. That is not what you want to be seeing. And then what we are hearing is that the Houston Texans are kind of doing the damn thing. Now, we will wait and see what Klint Kubiak has to say about all this, about the work being done. But
veteran teams, veteran defenses, you worry about that. If there's a lack of communication or if guys are getting beat, young defense, you can hold out because you know that they are learning and they get it quicker. And because there's a lot of potential there, you're never quite sure when that's going to hit. But we know Rob Leonard is a definite taskmaster, and he's going to make sure that everyone is able to go and get what he wants on communication. It reminds me of what Nakobe Dean was saying earlier this month when he threw Coach Leonard out of the huddle, because he's like, people may have a hard time understanding what I'm trying to say, but if there's too many people talking and yelling, then I can't get my message out and communicate. So I wonder where the communication problems may lie. Will it be in the secondary, the defensive line, or where it's supposed to be at the green dot? And it makes you wonder, like, all right, where could things be falling apart? And we're going to find out, because things are going to get fixed in a hurry. And one thing we saw from preseason week 1 is that Dina Walker, 7-17, they didn't have to be out there the whole time. So maybe getting more of these reps effectively is actually how things are going to start solidifying itself on defense. That's why this week, this joint practice is so important, because you're going to get some really, really quality reps with your first team defense when it really needs it the most, instead of a preseason game.
Aaron Wilson, who covers the Houston Texans, we're following different reports. Obviously, Raider Nation Radio, boots on the ground. So we'll be chatting up with Vinny once again, coming up in hour number 3. But Quay Walker picked off C.J. Wilson. Good sign. Or C.J. Wilson. C.J. Stroud. And apparently after the play, spiked the football, was given a taunting penalty by the referee, right, which he didn't apparently appreciate.
Hey, get it out of your get it out. But you know what? That's very enthusiastic, because that the defense was getting,
I'm sure they're getting pissed off right now based on what we're seeing. If they're getting run on a little bit, he's pissed off a little bit. Good to see a little juice. Good to see a little fire and vinegar.
I'm okay with that. It's better than throwing punches or taking your helmet off or doing something like that. It's okay to celebrate that.
I said it yesterday that, I don't know if it was on this show or on TV. It all blends together, talking Raiders. But I said joint practices test the offense, the defense, and the temperament of every player. And sometimes that results in scuffles, fights, fists are thrown, or, as we're apparently, according to reports, a taunting penalty from Quay Walker.
These things happen.
Do they? Yeah, they do.
We can't live in just a static, quiet environment. You got to bark back a little bit. And getting a pick from off of C.J. Stroud, that's a feather in the cap right there. That's a high point of your joint practice. That's good for the defense.
So we will wait and see. We will. Again, I said it on Thursday for the preseason game, Clay. We're going to overreact to everything we see, from the preseason to the joint practice to the next preseason. We're going to do it to everything, because that's what we do. At the same time, in the back of our heads, let's try and have a big picture. It's hard in the moment, especially me. I'm a prisoner of the moment. I'm going to overreact to everything. I'm like, what does that mean? I guess, well, that's over. Brock Bowers apparently dropped a pass today. What does that mean? What's happening?
He's doing that to hurt you. He did that to bring the tears.
All right, 702-365-9200. Hour number 3 on the way here, Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
Deuce! Goodbye! Into the end zone! 60 yards! Touchdown Raiders!
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignore, and Clay Baker.
It's the trifecta for Bowers! His third touchdown of the game! And the Raiders with a chance to win it!
On Raider Nation Radio 920.
It's hour number 3 here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. Vince Sapienza, Clay Baker, coming to you live from Las Vegas here on a Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. Raider Nation Radio in H-Town, Houston, for the joint practice between the Texans and Raiders that should be just about wrapping up. Klint Kubiak set to step to the podium, scheduled to be now. when that happens. We will bring that to you here live here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. We'll be checking in with Vinny Bonsignor, who is at practice, giving us his take and perspective on what he's seen. Now, let's just go through the checklist of what we do know, what we have seen, what has been reported. Mm-hmm. Jackson Powers Johnson did make the trip to Houston, but was seen in street clothes, meaning Caleb Rogers got all the run with the number ones at the right guard position. According to Q Myers and Vinny, he has looked fine in terms of that stepping up to that process. We'll get a better idea from Klint Kubiak again when he talks to the media about what he thought about them. But again, I would imagine he'll sit there and say, I want to go through the tape. Right, I want to look back and look through the film. But a big opportunity, no doubt, for Caleb Rogers today. Fernando Mendoza, all the speculation leading into this week, how many more reps would he actually get? Is he going to see any time with the first team? Well, that question has been answered, and the answer was emphatically yes. Getting some run with the ones, most notably a nice, beautiful, big touchdown to Brock Bowers against the number one team defense of the Houston Texans. Some of the other reports that we have seen, it has been maybe a little bit of a rough go. Some miscommunication going on the defensive side of things. Houston kind of moving the ball a little bit on Rob Leonard's unit. But again, some good, some bad, some what you would expect. Doesn't look like there was any fights, any scuffles. According to a few, there was some reports of some feistiness between one Max Crosby and rookie's offensive lineman for the Houston Texans, Keelan Rutledge, who many may remember during our draft profiles leading up to the draft. Keelan Rutledge was a guy that a lot of us here were sitting there saying he'd be a pretty good Raider.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that he's kind of the one in the mix.
And I love how Max will point him out first. Of course, those two would have to, get it on a little bit early on. So that's all right. But it's it's good to see that there's going to be ups and downs, and then that's the thing that we have to take a look at the joint practice. There's going to be ups and downs for either side of the ball. All right, for the offense, it was good to see Mendoza get some work with the ones and also see if Kirk Cousins was able to actually go in and find some magic in the red zone during those kind of periods. But for the defense, how are you going to gauge the ups and downs, and how much stock do you put into the downs? Obviously, there were some big runs being held. The run defense looked a little shaky, according to certain reports. How much of a concern level is that for you?
Yeah, and again, talking with Q earlier in hour number 2, again, he was the one pointing to with Kirk Morrison. He's like, man, yeah, just miscommunication issues on some of the plays that they were looking at from the defensive side of things. And I'll just kind of repeat myself of what I saw of what I know to be true. We've talked about how new and young the entirety of the roster is, specifically on defense in that secondary. There's a lot of new, there's a lot of young. With Rob Leonard being a first-year defensive coordinator, first-time defensive coordinator, implementing a new system with a whole bunch of new names, it shouldn't be surprising that there's miscommunication, that there's at times. Now, it can't happen on a consistent basis. That you don't just get don't get a pass every single time there's a miscommunication because you're new. But I'd rather see that happen now as opposed to the first month of the NFL season.
Yes.
The thing is that has to get corrected. What's frustrating, I think, to many in Raider Nation, I would imagine, is after what happened week 1 of the preseason, where the Arizona Cardinals don't throw an incompletion in the first half, and it's Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. You're not having the elite of the elite quarterbacks.
No.
And that's happening. You don't like that. You take it with a grain of salt. I said we're going to overreact on Thursday. We did.
It's okay.
And now we kind of take a deep breath. But now this is where you have to see the progress. And again, we're going to hear from Klint Kubiak. We're going to see if progress was made. I would imagine he's going to say, yes, got to go back, still need to get better. I imagine that's what we're going to hear. But in preseason game number 2, I don't know how much of the starters are going to get run. in terms of getting to see week over week progression, but you need to see progression at some point. I half jokingly asked you, I go, did the Houston Texans complete 15 straight passes? And he said no. I said, okay, well, that's a start. I guess that's progress. However you want to categorize it.
Right.
Needless to say, it's the early returns aren't what you want to hear on the defense. But let's take a breath and see what it really looks like, what the coaches have to say.
And, for Kubiak himself as a first-year head coach, it makes you wonder, how is he going to approach, preseason? Because some coaches do not like to game plan. They do not like to do a lot of starter action. They would like to do, something that makes it more cohesive for everyone just to play injury-free as much as possible by the time they go to week one. D'Amico Ryans is a guy that does game plan. So it makes me wonder how much game planning and will Kubiak take in that and just defense of what he's going to see, because he still needs to see a little bit more. There are still many questions that need to be answered on both sides of the ball. So I think that this game might have a lot more meaning than we realize, going and concluding with this joint practice of who's in, who's out, and how this defense and offense begins to evolve.
And let's make something clear, just because... Again, I want to reiterate, Clay, because I think it's really important. Just because there's a whole bunch of new doesn't mean everybody just gets a whole bunch of passes. That being said, what has been the message from the beginning? This isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time to climb the hill, to climb the mountain, as John Spytek said. So, when we look at that and we... It's hard not to overreact on a day like today where you sit there and see the defense is getting, their lunch handed to them, seemingly.
But we need to know the whole story. The full story.
And we need to look at the bigger picture that, okay, this is just one step in a line of steps. Up on the text line, Jerry goes, I was told not to overreact on the defense. But every year this defense lacks fundamentals. Been like it for 15 years. Jerry, I hear you. Jerry, I hear you.
Jerry, come back off the ledge.
Our buddy Fabian, morning tailgate. Fire and vinegar. That's what I said. I said that earlier. He says, that's not how I learned it. Fabian, I'm trying to censor myself. I'm trying not to. If your business, it can't be.
Those are very two corrosive elements right there. Fire and vinegar.
I guess I could say piss and vinegar.
Sure.
I just said it. It just happened. Are you happy, Fabian? Are you happy? I tried to censor myself.
No, Fabian is not happy.
Buzz C on the text line says, Vinny Paz. I think that's me. Yeah, that's me. That's a different way to shorten my last name. Or abbreviate it. Vinny Paz.
Vinny Paz?
I kind of like the way that sounds.
Well, it reminds me of the great middleweight, Vinny Pazienza, right?
Yeah, right.
Going up against Duran, going up against the great middleweights.
Well, let me get this text. Buzz C says, I hope you're right because Leonard looked lost against Arizona. Gardner, he's talking about Gardner, moved the ball with ease and no checking him. And now the Texans, I had 35 years of putrid defense. Can't take a minute more. So, again, I feel you, Buzz. I feel you.
See, this is what happens with the joint practice is the most anticipated moment of the offseason. This is the kind of stuff we're getting.
Yeah, that's
fine. Totally
again,
understandable.
I said, and I can't blame any of Raider Nation for overreacting. I overreact all the time. Like I said, I'm a prisoner of the moment. It's the latest information we have, and seemingly it's not good information that we're hearing out of Houston's in terms of defense. That being said, Vinny Paz, somebody asked me, "You gonna change?" When I was going into TV, so you're gonna change your name? I go, "What do you mean?" Like, are you going to have, like, a stage name? I go, why would I do that?
Instead of Vince, Steve?
No, like your last name.
They want you to change the identity of your last name.
I was like, my last name's awesome. What are you talking about?
Americanize it a little bit.
Well, like Dallas Reigns.
Yeah.
In L.A. Johnny Mountain.
Vince Power. Vince Powers.
But Vinny Paz... Maybe if I need a second career, I need an identity change. Vinny Paz.
You sound like a bad boxing promoter. Is what you do. Hey, Vinny Paz. What's coming up this week?
Buzz C, I like where I'm gonna give it some thought now. All right, going to give it some thought. All right. So the joint practice has ended between the Texans and the Raiders. Kirk Cousins is in the midst of a scrum with our local beat reporters who made the trip. Let's take a listen to QB1, Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Kirk Cousins.
I felt like today was the reason why we come here. I think it's good to get work in a different environment against a different unit, against a little bit different scheme. Have to see something different, and I thought we got a lot out of it. There's going to be a lot to talk about, which is what you want, coming back, watching the tape, being able to say, hey, this wasn't good enough, I can be better here. So, productive day. Probably would have liked to have finished a little stronger, but made some plays in the first few periods that we were pleased with, and we'll keep building from here.
How do you feel like the offensive collective has gelled so far at this point?
Yeah, no, there's a good gel. There's a good command of the system. I think it's now about, like today, as you see new opponents, new scheme, being prepared for those specific looks and owning the new adjustments we make, and then continuing to build.
You played around a lot of really good tight ends, but Brock Bowers is kind of just a different beast. What are some similarities or some differences that Brock Bowers has to any other tight end you've worked with so far?
Well, I'm really impressed with him as a person. Certainly a great player. Everybody knows that. But from a distance, you don't get to know him as a person. And, he's always detailed on his routes. He just takes care of himself. He's a pro. And he's the kind of guy that you say, all right, if we do our part getting you the football, you stay healthy, the sky's the limit. And, we just got to take it one day at a time and keep giving him those opportunities to help us.
You knew that this wasn't going to be a day at the park, nor that you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And there were some struggles on the protection end of things. When it comes to that offensive line and your communication with them and just where they are, what do you think today told you about where you guys are on the offensive line?
Yeah, I think we'll have to watch it, but I do think that edge, like you said, we kind of knew that this will be a good test for us. I think we can also talk about, how can we help them? How can I help them? Because it's a tall task. Nobody really can just drop back and take 7-step drops play after play after play against any rush in the NFL, let alone these guys. So we asked a lot of them today, and it'll be really good film to go watch.
Specifically on Caleb Rogers, can you tell me what you see out of his game, what you like?
Yeah, no, he's a great presence. He's got a lot of dog to him. He's a fighter, competitive, and wants to be a really good player. And I think that whole group up front is working really hard. They come to work every day with a great demeanor as a unit, as individuals, and I like the way they approach their job.
You talked about the challenge they provided, but we hear about how good their defense is. How good was it going against it?
Yeah, it was good. It was a good challenge. You feel their rush. They do a good job, pursuing and playing fast, and felt a lot like these joint practices can get. We throw a jab, they throw a jab, in terms of just making a play here, they make a play there, and that's kind of pro football right now. Is it's very back and forth, and I was pleased with the way we made some plays. Just would have loved to have finished the last period, I guess, with more production.
We saw Fernando get his kind of first real chance at going with the 1-0 line against a pretty good opponent. Yeah. Just what did you see from him about how he kind of rise to the occasion with that?
No, he did a great job. He's well prepared and made some great plays, and is continuing to just do what he's coached to do and pick up the system quickly.
A lot is made of the Texans' defensive line, but they've also got a bunch of guys in the secondary. How do you feel the receivers and the tight ends kind of managed that today? Yeah,
I think it was pretty good by them. I mean, Brock won on a thunder route, did a nice job. We had some good match coverage coming across the field. Some different receivers. Honestly, it was probably more the rush. Just a couple times where you felt like, hey, I got a chance here, but I'm kind of having to navigate the rush a little bit. So it's good though, because 7-on-7 doesn't really give you that real simulation. So I thought they did a good job against the coverage.
I saw you get a little upset toward the end of practice. What exactly happened on that?
Well, my elbow got hit, and I joke with Max. I say, you can touch me anywhere you want, just don't touch my arm. But you want to bump me in the ribs. I think if anything, hit me in the hips or the ribs is actually good because it simulates what I need to feel. I said the elbow and the shoulders where I could sprain something pretty easily. So if you could just help me, I got some scars from some hits in real games where helmets go into armpits and things, and it ruins your season. So I was just asking him to just stay off the arm, and had to remind the Texans as well. You can hit me anywhere you want, or I might as well just take the red jersey off because you're playing with sometimes an understood rule that if it's not understood, then what are we doing?
In this offense, you guys have to throw to a spot so much. That doesn't show up on a stat sheet on an interception when a wide receiver runs a wrong route. How frustrating is that when you deal with timing?
Well, I think it just gives us a great chance to talk about, the details, talk about the adjustments, talk about how much offense we have and how things could come up at any moment from 2-3 weeks ago, that we just got to be able to have that recall. And it's a lot of volume right now in training camp. We kind of keep throwing things at young guys, and there's a lot to handle. So it's understandable right now. When you get to the season, I remember when I was a rookie, Mike Shanahan used to say, like, Kirk, when you get to the season, you can kind of pare down what you're focusing on because you have a game plan. But in the preseason, it can be pulling from a lot of places. So part of the journey, part of the process, and it'll be good to talk about when we watch the tape.
All right, last one. Both personally and as an offense, do you feel you're where you need to be right now in terms of developing, getting ready for the season? Or are you a little ahead, behind? I guess, how would you evaluate where you guys are?
I think you always feel like you're trying to get it better. I don't think you ever kind of sit back and say, we're ready to go. If we had to play Miami today, we could. But, I think today was a great reminder that, hey, we got more work to do. We got more details to lock in on, and more coaching, to take. And that's what the next few weeks will be for.
I know it was the last one, but you're acting in the commercial. Are you pleased with how that turned out?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know that I'm going to win an Oscar or a daytime Emmy anytime soon, but I'll do my best.
Cool. All right,
yeah,
thanks guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Raiders quarterback Kirk Cousins following joint practice between the Raiders and Texans today. And, that's kind of the presence that you need on a day like today, where maybe it didn't all go your way. A 15-year NFL vet, a guy who's been in locker rooms, a guy who's been through joint practices, preseason games, highs, lows, things of that nature, to have that level-headedness of being like, look, as a reminder to the young guys to not be down on themselves, or even just a voice to the fans being like, this is what these days are for. We're here to learn, and sometimes you got to learn the hard way. Other times it goes better, but this is exactly why they wanted to come here. They go against a playoff caliber team, a top elite defense in the NFL, and see what they have to do to get better. And, they have a lot of valuable tape now to look at. Raiders head coach Klint Kubiak now stepping to the podium. Here is Klint Kubiak.
Klint, your offense is timing based, and I think it was period 10 where Fernando had that interception, but it appeared, because he threw it before the receiver broke, that was maybe a receiver running a wrong route. Did I read that right?
Anytime there's an interception, it's the quarterback's fault, no matter what happens. So I thought he had a really good practice. You can't turn the ball over in the red zone, so it's another lesson learned.
What did you make of the way that he rose to the challenge, kind of getting his first reps with the ones offensive line extensively and going up against this defense?
Yeah, I wanted to see him, going against the Texans ones. That was our plan all along. Thought he did some good things. Look forward to watching the tape. But just he and his teammates, all these young guys that were playing, we got to get them up to speed real quick.
What did you feel about the work the team put in overall today?
Yeah, I really got to see one side of it, so I look forward to going and watching the defensive side. But, overall with joint practices, the main thing is you're just trying to get working and get each other better without turning into a fight and a melee. So I thought our guys were very mature. I think there maybe was a dust-up one time on the other side. But it's a practice. It's week 4 of training camp. It's about getting the team better. And so I would say overall I was pleased with that.
You guys wanted to stress your offensive line, and you couldn't have picked a better team than the Houston Texans to do that. How do you feel like the offensive line stood up today?
I think we can get better. I didn't feel like we had a great day running the ball. Maybe I'm wrong when I go watch the tape, but that's a special front that I'm glad we got the reps against them and get to do it again on Thursday night.
Pass blocking.
Same thing. I gotta go see the film, but our offensive line has done a great job of gelling to this point. We all know that we're not anywhere near where we want to be. We got to keep getting better.
Even though you said you wasn't necessarily impressed with the way you ran the ball, Mike Washington had a few big plays. Can you just talk about his maturation throughout camp and also what you saw from him today?
Yeah, I think you saw today what you see in practice. So very few guys just rise to the occasion and become gamers. They have to show it to you in practice first. So Mike has done it in practice. He's done it in the game. And we just got to keep challenging him and putting more on his shoulders.
JPJ left practice early yesterday, and then he was here today, but he wasn't with the team on the field. What's the update on him?
Yeah, he got banged up in practice yesterday. We wanted to be cautious today, and we got to keep evaluating him moving forward.
Is there any has he been ruled out for Thursday yet?
I would not expect JPJ to play Thursday night. No.
I'm sorry. I know you're not ever satisfied, but to come in against a playoff team like this, your team held their own. And are you at least can you take some pride in that? It wasn't like they dominated you guys at all today.
Yeah, well, we didn't expect to be dominated. I think our guys have a high standard. And you expect to win every rep. You expect to be expect to be a great team. You expect to compete. So that's the kind of guys we have in our locker room. So, and I think we could have even competed better. So we got lots to improve on.
I know you have a set plan for playing time for Fernando already, but did his time at the joint practice today with the ones impact how much he plays, if so, on Thursday?
It does not, no. He's going to get lots of reps this preseason. He needs every one of them.
What about the throw to Brock Bowers? It's a well-schemed play. He got the necessary time against the Houston Texans defense. As a coach, do you sometimes need that little, not reassurance necessarily, but okay, that's what we want to see right there. Those are the type of things that we're looking for.
Yeah, a team like Houston, they do a great job of making you check the ball down and tackling you and forcing turnovers, so it's hard to get the ball down the field on them. But if it's just one play you're talking about after practice, then that's probably a concern. You need more.
We've seen Brock flash against the Raiders defense throughout training camp, but we saw a couple plays from him today. Just what's it like to see him, continue success against another opponent?
He's one of the leaders on our team, so he rose to the occasion today, and we expect him to continue to do so and keep getting better.
Do you expect the first team to play on Thursday?
We'll see.
A lot's made of the...
Like how you asked that. That was really good.
A lot's made of the Texans' defensive line, but they've got a pretty solid secondary as well. How do you see how the receivers went against the secondary today?
I got to go watch the film. I got to go see how we did. But yeah, very good team, very good opponent. We need all the work, all the press we can get.
What kind of rhythm do you feel like Kirk is in up to this point in camp and preseason?
Yeah, I feel like him, Fernando, and I feel like Aiden are all playing really good football. I told you guys that all three of those guys are starters in this league. So they just got to make sure that we continue to climb and get better. We ended the day with a turnover, which is you got to put points on the board before half. So as far as that goes, that's a disappointment. But he knows that he's a veteran, and we'll go learn from it as a team.
What's it like for you to be back here in Houston? You've got a lot of connections. We saw you talking with D'Amico pre-practice. Your dad, obviously. Just what's it like being back here?
It's just such a blessing to get to coach in the NFL and to come back here. Where my dad coached, and I saw so many practices. It was a really cool feeling, but very quickly erased all those feelings and just got right to practice. And so think of the warm and fuzzy stuff later.
Will the film affect your decision on playing time Thursday?
Yes.
Last one, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you, man.
All right, so that's Raiders head coach Klint Kubiak following the joint practice between his team and the Texans. Categorized Fernando as a really good practice for him, but turnovers cannot happen. They're going to be part of the learning lessons. And when asked about specifics of the offensive line, the wide receivers, he said he wanted to look back at the tape. He also mentioned he felt like they didn't run the ball very well against the Houston Texans, which he was obviously clearly not a fan of. He said, now maybe the tape will tell me something different, but in the moment did not like the way his team ran the ball. And at the very end, very notable in terms of, as we all sit there and try and figure out who's going to play on Thursday, he sits there and says that the tape from practice will dictate who plays on Thursday. And, which was a very
great.
Awesome. Love that.
I love that.
And I think it goes with what he was talking about before the preseason even started. He says, we need to get online quickly, and our starters need to play. So, I would not be surprised in this moment as we sit here after just listening to him if we see a lot of the guys who we expect to be regulars playing Thursday night in Houston because they need the reps. They need the time on task and things of that nature. And to that point, it sounds like Fernando is going to get a lot of run on Thursday night. So
yeah, that's a good sign. And especially, I think, just as a motivating factor for some of the veterans who did not feel like they played well, that's just a little bit more of how Kubiak can push some buttons in some guys and start getting everybody on track, because he didn't seem like he was overwhelmingly disappointed, but you could tell that he wished they played better.
Yeah. Obviously, it's probably more lows than highs, and there was a couple moments, but as Klint Kubiak said, if you're sitting there hanging your hat on one big play that happened in practice, we need more of that, and that's not good enough. I love the way he's talking. I love how he's not happy with any one thing because he sees all the other the warts, if you will, with the team, and he's trying to get this thing better. He's trying to set the standard. He's trying to build it higher. It's not going to happen all in one day, but on this day, a lot of information was gained, and evaluations will be made over the next couple days, and we'll see what it looks like on Thursday. Coming up here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920, we're going to hear more from the Raiders themselves, including from the defensive side of the ball. Nakobe Dean, Jeremy Chin, next here on the Tailgate.
You can always catch up with the Morning Tailgate 24/7 for streaming and podcasts. Get the LV Sports Network app, free to use and download. Now, let's get back to the Morning Tailgate.
On the Vegas sky, the lights are burning bright. Fernando, silver echoes roll through the night. They're calling your name, you know.
Fernando, play action. Fernando looks down the middle. Benson catches it around the 40. Great play action by Fernando as he throws a strike right down the middle of the field.
That's exactly where it needed to be, too. It was in between the coverage. Ball comes out of his hand really nice. That's a really good throw.
Welcome back inside the Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. JT the Brick, Eric Allen, Matt Millen on the call. As Fernando hooking up with Malik Benson in that preseason opener. A lot more connections made today at that joint practice against the Houston Texans. Some good, some bad, but as Klint Kubiak described Fernando's day of work, really good practice. Here is the number 1 overall pick following that joint practice, Fernando Mendoza.
What did you think about the work you were able to put in today just as a team?
I think it's great. I mean, especially we go against our defense, which is fantastic, and such a top defense every single day, and then now be able to go against the Texans defense, which is also a top defense in the league, go against them, be able to get some reps with the ones against the superstars on their defense, and then obviously their twos are fantastic as well. We got so much work, whether it was move the ball, first down, third down, red zone, 2-minute. There were so many situations, and I believe overall it was a positive day. There were plays that I loved and plays that I wish I had back, but in reality, that's a lie. I wish I didn't have them back because it's a growing experience, and it's practice. It's practice, and this is what I love, and it's just a beautiful day to play football here, and I'm so happy of so many things to learn from today.
Fernando, I just talked to Klint. This is a timing-based offense, so there's times you have to throw a ball, and if a receiver runs a wrong route, gets picked, it goes against you. How hard is that, just learning quickly a new offense that is so timing-based?
Yeah, I would say that it is tough. However, everything that is tough, you wouldn't want something to be easy. If it's tough, it's worth it, and that's why it works at the highest level. And it's great because the teammates, we rely on each other. We rely on the receivers to make the right timing and right route. The receivers rely on the quarterback to throw in the correct timing. The linemen rely on the quarterback to get it out on time. The quarterback rely on the lineman to give them that time to throw it. And then the tight end, I mean, there's so many different variables of it. And when we all rely on each other, I believe it makes us closer. And when we become one oiled unit, and we have all this synergy and become a dynamic ecosystem where we're evolving together, playing on time, be able to make, and then still make some off-schedule plays, but mostly playing on time, then that's what teams in this system take the next level.
From your perspective, what's the learning experience on the interception in the red zone for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great learning experience. It was a learning experience where I progressed in my progression. I thought the safety was a little deeper than he was, and at that point I might need to either put it lower in Ashton so he stays away from the hit and he drops down, but that's the beautiful nature of film. We're going to be able to go in there, watch and learn, and although I treat every practice like a game, there's no negative repercussions from today except learning experience. So, you never want to let your teammates down in a red zone period, but at the same time, it's the best time for it to happen, especially against another team. So I look forward to watching the film, and sometimes in the red zone, you got to throw it away, or you got to scramble and extend a play. It's not always going to be there, and I always see it as a puzzle. I have a piece, and I can either put it in 5 little slots.
Like those types of plays that you make and then getting over it so quickly, is that something that you've always done that's come pretty natural to you, or something that you've had to kind of learn?
Something that you have to learn, especially as a quarterback, but the next couple of plays, we were able to have a 2-minute drive. We weren't able to capitalize, but I didn't feel any burden after that play. It was like, okay, cool, it happened, but now I got to focus on the next play, on the next present moment. It would be letting my teammates down if I let that burden me throughout the next couple series of plays because then I wouldn't be able to play on time and they wouldn't be able to rely on me. But I think whether there's going to be negative plays, whether there's a negative play, whether it's one of the teammates, whether it's me, whatever it is, we all are able to bounce back from it and have a forward-thinking and optimistic mindset. Whether it's, hey, tranquilo, which means calm in Spanish, hey, tranquilo, and move forward, it's all good.
On the other end of that spectrum was the pass to Brock Bowers, a big play on that. How reassuring, for you, for your confidence, is making that play, not just from you, but from the team standpoint as well?
I mean, both of those were against the Texans' one's defense, which shows the spectrum of how I'm a rookie quarterback. I need to get better and learn from experiences, but those are two experiences that I learned from, good and bad, and sometimes you might even learn from the bad a little bit more than the good. So I think, the offensive lineman blocked fantastic on that play, and Brock Bowers is no explanation needed. Brock Bowers, so it made it easier there. But it was for sure reassuring that you could go out there and say, okay, it's one of the top defenses in the league, but at the same time, football is football. And if you make your read and you stay disciplined to the process and take what the defense gives you, then you can reap the rewards or reap, let's just say the negative consequences.
What did you see from your film on Thursday against Arizona, and what are your expectations for Thursday against Houston?
Yeah, there was a lot of things I saw against Arizona. I think it was good to get my feet wet, and we weren't able to come out there with a win, which put on myself. I think my teammates did fantastic, but I think it's a good learning experience, and I'm looking forward to playing Houston because, one, they're a great defense. Two, I feel like now with the experience, be able to move forward. Like I said, tranquilo, my feet were a little fast, a little out of control, be a little more in control, survey the field, see it a little better. I'm really excited for this upcoming game and all the opportunities that I have in the future. What was the opportunity today? And then the next opportunity will be Thursday. Then we have practice, and then we have the Niners. Every opportunity forward, I'm trying to capitalize on.
You talk about going up against the one's defense today and also working with the one offense. Klint said that was kind of the plan going throughout the week. Just how do you approach that mentally coming into today, knowing that was going to happen?
I think with an opportunistic mindset. It's such a blessing and an honor to be able to play with the ones, but it's also a blessing and honor to play with the twos and the threes and get reps in general. So I'm very blessed. I see it as an opportunity of the coaching staff believing in me, and whatever opportunity I get, I want to take advantage of and make sure that if there are positives from that, learn from it. If there's negatives from that, learn from it. If there's neutrals, learn from it. So I think it's great to get the speed of the game, because every group is fast, but the ones might be elevated a little bit more. So to get that speed of the game, be in there, be able to not only execute the play, but also command the huddle, see and read the defense pre-snap, post-snap. There's so many different elements that I think are elevated and accelerated with that group.
Fernando, something that I noticed, from the preseason game. Obviously, your family was there. Your brother was on the broadcast as well. How cool of an experience is to see that, and how do you feel like you and your family has adjusted to Las Vegas and just the team in general?
Yeah, I think Las Vegas has been an incredible city. It's been incredible to be here. To be completely honest for you, from the outside in, at first I had a notion about Las Vegas, but when getting here, I was completely wrong. My family absolutely loved Las Vegas, and my brother, who's 14, said he had the best time in Las Vegas. He wants to try to move out here. He was on the roller coaster. My entire family we went to some restaurants, super nice, so many dining experiences, and it really shows everybody that there's so much to do on the Strip and in Las Vegas in general, on and off the Strip. Whether it's talking to the Raiders fans, whether it's the dining experiences, like I mentioned before, the roller coasters, the concerts, it's the entertainment capital of the world. There's so much to do, and it was nice for me because I was able to focus on football because my family was so busy with all the amazing events there is in Las Vegas. They went to go see the Wizard of Oz, and then we went to go dinner, and so it was fantastic. My family had a fantastic time, and I know they had a blast, and they look forward to the next time. And they say whether I play or not, they want to come out back again. So I'm like, great for you.
Can you give us your thoughts, Fernando, on Caleb? I just asked Kirk about him. Just what are you seeing from him, Caleb Rogers, at that right guard spot? What impresses you?
Caleb is a year older than me. However, him being a year older than me, I look up to Caleb. I look up to Caleb like I do most offensive linemen. The way his enthusiasm, the way he approaches the game, the way he approaches life is something that I look up to, and I'm incredibly blessed to have him as a teammate and as someone that I could learn and grow from. And like I said, his approach to life, the game, offseason, just everything is top tier along with all the offensive linemen. So to be around him is a joy.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that is one Fernando Mendoza. Talking about his day. I absolutely loved listening to him, talking to him. But when he sits there and says, look, there's some good stuff. There was some stuff I want back. And then he stops himself and says, actually, that's a lie. I don't want those back because those are the learning moments. Like, those are the stressors. Those are the things I realize I can't do, so I'm not going to do them again. It's not a linear rise from the bottom, as he talks about, to the top. There's gonna be some jagged edges in that line graph, Clay. So, today is one of those another pieces of the pie for him, and you can just tell that when he goes through something, he's gonna bury his face in this tape, right, and this evaluation and everything he did, and is there not a confidence listening to him? Like, he's going to correct it. Like, he has the talent. It's clear. But more than anything, he has the want and desire to correct those mistakes. That's why you feel so strongly about the kid, the character, and everything, and the player, more importantly, moving forward. So it'll be interesting to see what his reps look like on Thursday. We'll try and get some more sound tucked in here before we close the show here on the Morning Tailgate. But first, Clay, you do have a gift for the masses.
Yes, that's right. Rebel football, the season beginning very, very soon, and we have a pair of tickets for you to go see UNLV hosting Memphis. Be caller number 9 at 702-365-9200, 702-365-9200. Rebel football and more sound from the joint practice from the Raiders here on Raider Nation Radio 920 coming up next.
We'll take your comments and questions on X. Follow us at RNR 920 AM. Let's dig in to the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
As we wrap up our time here on the Morning Tailgate, we want to get in as much sound as we can from the joint practice for you to chew on before JT the Brick and Q Myers with Unnecessary Roughness later today, 12-2 and 2-5 from Houston. Jackson Powers Johnson did not practice today in street clothes. Jeremy Fowler reporting that the belief is it is a short-term injury. Meanwhile, Klint Kubiak says it is likely he is out for the preseason game against Houston on Thursday. So when we look at what today looked like, a good day for Fernando Mendoza, but Klint Kubiak talked about he, along with all the other young players on the roster, which is a giant number of them, need to get up to speed and need to get up to speed quickly. So, Fernando also talked about this is literally what you do it for. We also heard from Kirk Cousins talking about, level-headed, and we're going to hear a little bit from Nakobe Dean. Let's get a little insight on the defense before we break here on the Morning Tailgate. Here's the Raiders' green dot, the linebacker, Nakobe Dean.
We talk about the defense today. I mean, you guys held your own against a playoff caliber team.
It was all right. My fault. It was a cool day. It was a decent day. It was a lot of ups, a lot of things we did good, a lot of things we could do better. But we're gonna continue to learn from it and get better.
Where do you feel like you guys are at with your run defense right now?
We're getting better every day. I feel like we're in a good spot. We transition to where we want to be with certain calls and certain personnel grouping us out there to stop the run, and so we get there.
There's a few plays made from a few linebackers like Quay and Cody and Tommy. Sure. What was the thing overall that impressed you the most about this linebacking core today?
It was always what's been impressing me the whole time. Just trying to demand the standard, demand excellence out of not only the linebacker room but the whole defense as a whole. I feel like the linebackers are kind of like the heartbeat of a defense. We run with 4-3 and we bang with 350 every snap. So yeah.
when Clay makes a play like that and the whole defense gets fired up, what does it do just for like camaraderie and gelling and just like team building?
It always does a great deal for team building and celebrate. I feel like our celebrations could have been way more, definitely with him picking the end practice. I guess we were just a little tired, but it was a good play.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so that's Raiders linebacker Nakobe Dean. Clay, didn't sound all like the heavens were falling.
No.
On defense.
It didn't.
I also don't expect him to sit there and say, man, it was rough out there. He said they're getting better every single day, and maybe that is just player speak, so to speak. It's him saying, we got some work to do.
Yeah. And I wonder where that work will come from. Will it come up from the defensive line? Because that's something that, that wasn't a whole lot of pressure on last Thursday against the Cardinals. But at the same time, when I hear about big runs being opened up, that reminds me of how I've seen it being opened up in the last couple of years, where the defensive line gets pried apart and they get manipulated, and the linebackers are a couple steps late, and they can't do it all. So I wonder what gets fixed first, the defensive line or the pursuit out of the linebackers and secondary?
Yeah, it's a good question. We talked to Jesse Merrick in hour number 2 about the defensive line and the pass rush and how it just was kind of non-existent on Thursday, which kind of allowed the quarterbacks to pick apart the secondary. So it kind of all bled into each other. I agree with him when he sits there and says, like, they're just going to run their plain defense. They're not going to really do anything crazy. That being said, even your playing defense, you have to get some kind of penetration from somewhere.
You must.
Like, we can't wait till early in the fourth quarter from Kean Sloan to be the sole guy that gets any kind of pressure on third-string offensive linemen. Like, if you're the Raiders, you want to see something popping. We saw that at Key Crawford in the second half against the Cardinals, which was great. Again, bad angles, but you saw the penetration. I think you want to see that earlier rather than later. Buzz C back with us up on the text line says Vinny P. I think that's me. I think I'm Vinny P now in Buzz C's eyes. Vinny Paz.
That's where you should be.
I think that's where I live now. Vinny P, I want what Coach Kubiak mentioned about the Texans D. Quote, they have a special front, and he's asking, why can't we have a special front and a dominating front five? What's so hard with attaining that? We had that for 25 years in the past. Why not us now? You're not wrong. You're not wrong. That being said, the Texans defense has been building for years. They've been hitting on their guys. Those guys have been doing it. For whatever reason you want to point to, coaching, player, opportunity, etc., it hasn't been here in Vegas. Hopefully this is now where that opportunity meets the talent and then production takes place.
That's all you can hope for.
I wish you had a better answer for you than that, but we got to see it, and the next opportunity is on Thursday. However, our next opportunity to chat with you, Raider Nation, is tomorrow. However, stay with the flagship for the Silver and Black, JT the Brick from 12 to 2, Unnecessary Roughness with Q Myers. Both shows live in Houston today for more ins and outs, more sound, more reaction from today's joint practice. For Vinny Bonsignor, for Clay Baker, I'm Vince Sapienza. Have a great day, everybody. We're back with you tomorrow, getting you set for preseason game number 2 on Thursday right here on The Tailgate.